Wednesday, Siasa Wednesday, the Wednesday of 18th, 16, what? Okay. 16th June 2021, tarehe 16 mwezi wa 6 mwaka 2021. Natumai kwamba uko salama, umeamka vizuri. Hii ni Siasa Wednesday, itakuwa Siasa Wednesday be the 16 June of 2021. Kama kawaida on Wednesday tunapiga siasa, tunaangalia nini inaendelea kwenye Kenya. Sasa hivi Kenya ni sinema nzima, drama nzima ya siasa. Kwa hivyo tutakuja kuzungumzia, tuangalie ni lipi ambayo inaendelea kwenye ulingo wa kisiasa, and then we get to analyze about the politics of the day and what best to expect as we move forward. As usual, this is a tackle, and the tackle begins now. As usual, I request when you join in, please like. When you like, I get you noted watching us, and after you like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to wide the broadcast. This is a tackle, and the tackle begins now. Leo tuko na Martin Warui ambaye ni fan of the week. Martin Warui amekuja, anakuanga amepiga simu every single day. Martin Warui calls in to contribute to the show, so I think it's only best that we give them an opportunity as well to be able to be part of this program and express their thoughts so that we can move this country together. Na tuko pia na SANDRA NJOKI. Watu wengi wanamjua pale Facebook, SANDRA NJOKI, mtu ambaye alifanya ukarabati pale Juja, wakaleta kiti. Nasikia pia wako pale Kiambaa pia wanaendeleza ukarabati. So we gotta know what's going to happen in Juja in Kiambaa as well. Siasa Wednesday, karibu sana. Tafadhali ukiingia pale, please like. When you like, I get you noted watching us, and after you like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. This is a tackle, and tackle begins now. Tuende mbele za Mungu tuombe, alafu tukirudi na kuja kuwapa salamu zenu. Mighty Father, we come before you this morning. We worship you, glorify your name. Thank you for another opportunity to be alive this morning. We thank you for a new day. We thank you for everything that given our hands to do. We thank you for this show, even when we start off, be with us. Thank you for the tacklers as we go out there to walk. May you bless the work of their hands. Even the panelists that are there this morning, may the conversation contribute to edifying the fabric of this country and society. In Jesus' name I pray and believe. Amen and amen. Asante sana. Mwana kuna watu ambao maamka tayari hapa. Mungu alita continue. Nambari moja mwenye amesema team tackle tuning in from Coventry, United Kingdom. Looking forward to Siasa Wednesday edition this morning. Show. Atijibi Wanjigi. What? Angoa? No. You are part of the ANSEC. Continue enjoying the trappings of power. What Kenya, sisi tumejipanga mapema, and it is too late to accommodate your ignorance and arrogance. We are tired of mutu wetu nonsense. Kaka chezea chini. Sisi tuko fine, thank you bro. Asante sana. Mungu alita continue. Good morning tackle and tacklers Mereweti student. Asante sana watu wa mtaani. Emmanuel Serem, good morning brother. Good morning to you bro. Na tulisema tafutane bana. So nitupia ujumbe tafutane hivi. Wiki Johnson Courage, good morning. Good morning my brother. Peter the Uri, Peter the Uri. Tuned in at KU Hospital. Asante sana. Kaki Faith all the way from Thika. Good morning, watching from Thika. Asante. Emmanuel Serem, Mamusha Moses Gebenenyi Ganet, Mheshimiwa Kapseret, Mamusha Isaac Serem na Leonard Serem. Mamkeni. Jacqueline Jabichi tuned in Kiambu. Blessed morning to you all. Ching Chong Lin tuned in from Eldoret. Asante Don Maverick. A very good morning team tackle tuned in from the heart of the capital Nairobi. Asante sana kwa watu ambao wameweza kutune in. Tafadhali ingeni pale, keep liking and sharing. When you get in, please like. When you like, I get to note you are watching us, and after you like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to wide the broadcast. Please like, share, and let us know where you watching us from. Niambie unatazama kutoka wapi. Acha niangalie kuna salamu pia za watu ambazo zimejificha hapa juu. Acha niangalie Aaron David Kamau, good morning to you. Aaron Njeru tuned from Kagio from Kirinyaga County. Asana Moses Kamau, very good morning to you. A very good morning to you, my brother. Azema is watching all the way from Juba. Shenedi Langad, good morning Shenedi Langad, following Nikiwa Green Town 035. Asante sana watu wa Kericho Mburumburu. I'm already tuned in waiting for the debate. Asante Charity, good morning. Already to listen to the intelligent Sandra Kimani. Haya, excuse me, mbatiza zitu najua kama Sandra NJOKI. Haya, Sandra Kimani, karibu. Mburumburu Kiambu, oko tuned in. Asante. Bruce Lee Isaida, good morning. Great Kongara, good morning to you. Karoki Wamasi, watching from Kayole, Anolga Kindu, Mukurweini, Nyeri County to wake up. Gerald Bito, condolences to my in-laws, the Muthuris, for the loss of their son, Mike Muturi in Kakindu. Poleni sana, the Muturis, for the loss of your son, Mike Muturi. Wacha Mungu aliwaze, na wacha roho yake ilale mahali pema peponi. Mburu, Siasa Wednesday, hashtag tatakwala sante. NJOKI kama, good morning, falling from Kashie, Kiamba. Watu wa Kiamba mmefika. Kiamba mnasema kunaendaje pale? Rodney Yogo, good morning guys, it's been long since I tuned in Thika Town. Asante sana bro, mpotea. James Kuria, good morning Gerald from Mombasa. Asante Jesse Kipingor watching from Eldama Ravine. MC Kali chairman Melokisha Kettle Dip anasema jambo. MC Kali, hata mimi fan of the year. Kuja karibu bana MC Kali. Kuja tuweze kuzungumza pamoja. Sam tuned in. Alan Kibet tuned in, salimia Sandra Kimani. Salamu za Sandra leo ziko kwa wingi. Naona Cherugus Willy, jambo bro, watching from Kiseri. Namon Biward, good morning GB from Eldoret. Asante Leshamu Roti Junior, good morning Peter tuned in from Nairobi CBD. Julius Kiri Wanyaga, Njeri Kinutia Inga tuko hapa. Haya, karibuni Rosli Yala, Lady Tosha Rosi wa Tarbo, good morning Bitok Tarbo tuko ndani. Asante sana, salimia watu pale. Mredi wa Luzi naona mamusho na charity. Haya, tuanze na ndugu yangu hapo Warui. Jambo Warui.
Salama sana.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Yeah. Habari ya kasa?
Kasarani kwema. Wananchi wanajizatiti. Kuendelea kufanya kazi zao za kila mchana. Ndio washiriki katika kujenga nchi. Yes.
Okay. Watu wa Kasarani wana nini inaendeleanga Kasarani sana?
Watu pale wengi wao ni wafanya biashara. Yeah, most of them have businesses.
Okay.
They have enterprises. That is what most of them wake up to do every morning. Pulling up their bootstraps, to get by and make something.
Kujenga nchi.
Kabisa.
Tafutia wa majamaa kitu ya kuvuruta.
Lazima, Kenyans never get tired. Even in the worst of circumstances. They are very hardworking, very resilient, and they just want to better their standards of, their standard of life, take their kids to school, invest here, there, save, the basic things that any, right thinking and a progressive person would be doing. That is what they do. And I believe that is what happens in the rest of the country. Okay. So the people of Kasarani are not any different from other Kenyans. They are just like other Kenyans who toil every day.
Single day.
Yeah.
But the Kenyans are really resilient.
Very.
But anyway, before that, I really want to appreciate you again for being a great fan of the tackle. Thank you for always calling in and contributing the discussion that usually goes in. Yeah. So very happy and asante sana. Asante sana. Kwa nini mna supporting tackle kwa Kasarani?
Because of the type of conversations that happen on the tackle, they are very progressive conversations. They are conversations, driven by, a deep sense of patriotism. The people who tune in into this show, they are people who want the best for this country. And their small way of contributing towards making this country a better country is, is by expressing, their opinions on various topical issues. To give them an opinion, they will say what is not happening, what should be happening, and how they think it should be happening. And here, the voice of everyone is given an opportunity. I think the second thing is the kind of guests that you bring. You bring, guests from across the aisle with all shades of opinions. And here you do not suppress any opinions, Every opinion is welcome here, so long as it's within the rules of debate, decency and, progressive ideas. Yeah. So, the guests that you attract are very progressive. And they are also people who have a track record of contributing towards nation building. So the ideas are very refreshing, very assuring, and they give Kenyans hope for a better tomorrow, even in the midst of these tough circumstances that Kenyans have been put through. Okay. So I think those two things, an opportunity to express themselves, and then the kind of guests that you bring, and also the fact that you have the show has the pulse of the nation. Always, you read the mood of the country, right? And those are the things that Kenyans want to hear.
Okay.
I think that is what I can say.
This is a very good painting and branding. I hope someone was recording it for quality purposes. Anyway, all right. So what do you think is the state of the nation even before you go to Sandra?
I think it's shaky.
Okay.
It could be better. And we have a responsibility collectively and severally to make sure that the state of the nation is strong. Of course, we know the things that have brought us here, but we cannot lose hope. We cannot give up on this country. We have a responsibility to make sure that the state of the nation is better. It's stronger. And one of the way to do that is to point out the things that we think are undermining a stronger state of the nation. Yeah, but it's not very good. But we hope for a better tomorrow. Better days are ahead. And that's why we must have these conversations to make sure that, as we move forward, we will make a better state of the nation, Yeah. But it's not good. It's not good. It could be better. But we'll see what we can do.
Okay.
To make it better.
All right. Sandra NJOKI, it's good to see you, finally.
Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be here.
Tumekuona sana pale Facebook. Piga kelele and finally it's good to have you. Ongera Onjuja. Pongezi sana.
Asante sana. But I can't take all the credit. The mastermind, the key strategist on that was Honorable Moses Kuria.
Very good friend of mine. Very brilliant guy.
Extremely brilliant. He set up a team, and he did it differently from how it's being done everywhere else. He used Wananchi, normal Kenyans, people who know the ground, people who know how to relate with Wanjiko on the ground. And then he did it, like I said, differently. He gave us the strategies, and then he sent us out to do the job. So the key credit here goes to Honorable Moses Kuria, my party leader.
Okay. Haya, wali MK yuko unapewa hongera mingi sana na watu wataki kuchukua credit yake hata kidogo. Yeah. So let me give you an opportunity as well to introduce yourself to the talk class since it's your first time.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's
all kama unatuonanga ama ndio umetuona sasa.
Unawaona? I'm a silent audience of your show. I was introduced to this show by Governor P. Mushendu, the governor with a small G, as he introduces himself. And yes, as you said, I'm mostly on Facebook. I believe in advocacy for good governance. Martin here has said one of the things that we cannot do is we cannot lose hope on this country. Yeah. And some time back in 2017, actually, after we won the elections as Jubilee, when I was proudly Jubilee then.
When you were red, as you
when
are
I was
now.
red, I logged out of Facebook. I had to concentrate on my corporate duties and roles. But towards 2019, was it 2018 actually? I just had to come back because I felt the country was going in the wrong direction. We had started something called the handshake. I sat back and watched the handshake and I said, let me see what this president has in store for us. Immediately I realized that the handshake was about attacking our deputy president. And it, and then it was about supporting the very man who gave us a very hard time throughout the first term of the Jubilee government. And hard as I tried to try and see the goodness in whatever the handshake was bringing in, I could not see it. And so I decided, I've got to come back. I've got to come back online. And I was among the initial people who dared to stick their heads out and say, hang on, you're not going to attack our deputy president, who, fought so hard to keep this country stable and sturdy during the very acrimonious 2013 elections. He worked so hard in the 2017 elections. He's the one guy who stipulated the Jubilee manifesto so well. And then here we are. At the end of the day, for me, that was he was the light of Jubilee, and we were attacking him. And I said, no, I've got to come out and I've got to remind Kenyans. It was a unit, and the former Prime Minister was not part of that unit. And so I've been that loud on Facebook, as you say, to keep the conversation going that we've got to remain focused on what we had started out in 2013. 2013 was about a change. The country was set to change. We were supposed to do things differently. The youth was supposed to come in. We're supposed to bring in spur industrialization, so to speak, grow our GDP to a certain level, and become a different country altogether. And for me, I felt that the guy who was going to be able to ensure that we stay on track was William Ruto. And I was therefore not going to sit back and let him get attacked. And he still remains my hope. He still remains my dream. He still remains a hope for very many Kenyans. And that's why we are online. We cannot own radio stations or TVs, but we are online and we're saying, no, we've got to keep the hope alive. We've got to keep the dream. We've got to keep the vision, and William Ruto is that vision.
So when you say supposed, because then we are supposed, you are supposed, what happened?
What do you mean?
Because you're saying you are supposed to. So was it done?
No.
Okay, what happened? And this is your camera. This is your camera just in front of you so that the Kenyans can see your eyes.
Okay.
Okay.
The Jubilee manifesto was extremely rich, extremely fruitful, and it was going to take us places.
Okay.
But like I said, in the first term, a lot of things happened. We saw a lot of developments. In fact, a lot of the things that people are trying to give credit to the second term are projects that were initiated during the first term.
Okay.
And if you take a closer look, you'll find that the person who went around initiating and making sure that these projects were actually started and put to ground was the deputy president.
Okay.
When you start a project, you've got a lead period of time before it manifests. So a lot of those projects are starting to manifest today. Unfortunately, come in 2017, and somewhere along the line, I don't know what happened to the Jubilee Party leadership. And they decided that what was important for them was to start appeasing the former prime minister, appease his anger for not winning, and that was not our agenda. That was not part of the plan.
Okay.
Ukishindwa umeshindwa. Kama utaki kwenda nyumbani, then be a progressive opposition leader.
Okay.
So somehow our president, President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, decided that his agenda, as much as he spelled out the big four agenda, would be given the back seat. The handshake took the front seat, and the handshake has actually brought us nothing other than political chaos, political animosity. It has affected our economy because you find a lot of investors will not come and invest in a country that is in political upheaval. So at the end of the day, that's why I'm saying the Jubilee manifesto, which was rich, was great, has not been implemented to its fullest because we channeled everything towards the handshake. And when we say everything, we also talk about resources.
Okay.
And the handshake was not cheap. It has costed us almost 22 billion plus.
Ante, kusalimiana
tu
is what, how many shillings?
22 billion. Hata mimi ningependa kusalimiwa nipate hiyo 22 billion.
Niko hapa. Shida ni pesa sina. Okay.
Yeah. So basically that's why I today advocate that there was that one person who was very, very committed to the Jubilee manifesto, and that's Dr. William Samoei Ruto, and he has been sidelined. And because from what I see, he was the vision. By sidelining the vision, then you have been derailed. So yes, that's why I'm saying we were supposed to have done. We were supposed to have been, but we are not.
So it was not done.
It was not done.
And now the president has come out. I'll start with you again before I get back to WARUI, because you're on that line of thought. The president has come out very clearly, and he has said that he has been able to do much more in his second term than his first term. And they have said that in his first term, there was massive corruption. They said now, with the handshake, he's been able to do much more because he's focusing on development and not politics. What are your thoughts on that? Because you are saying you did much more in the first term than second term. And the president, who is the head of Jubilee government, party and government, is saying they've been able to do much more in their second term. Do you agree with him? And why?
I will, for the sake of this being a public show, I'll retain decorum. But I think the president is clearly speaking the untruth. The first term is where a lot of government projects were initiated. And these projects were initiated by the deputy president. And during the second term, what we saw the deputy president going around doing was going now to officially open these projects. And that's the time, if you remember, that he earned the name Tanga Tanga.
Yes.
And the projects, I would love to know the projects that have been initiated during this second term, other than, the funny road that's coming in from the airport to Westlands, which we're going to pay for. And you had a guest here, I think, was it on this show, who told us that road is going to be a revenue for a certain family. So I don't know how that can be counted as a national project. And so he is not speaking to the truth by saying that there are projects more that he has done this term than in the first term. Okay. The only thing he has done more this term than in the first term is that he has created more animosity, more ethnicity in this country. He has totally eroded what Jubilee or TNA and URP managed to achieve during the first term. They brought the country together. For the first time, we went into an election without looking at this is a Kalenjin, this is a Kikuyu, this is a Luo, this is a Luya. We went in as a people. It was an amazing election period, but the president has eroded all that. So yes, if there's anything he has achieved, it's that he has totally disunified the country. As for corruption, he talks about the first term having more corrupt cases than the second term. Well, I will not argue with him on that. The first term, we saw the NYS, and we all know whose nanny was in charge of the NYS. We're not going to mention names. We also saw the containers, some 20-foot empty, rusted containers that were brought into this country under the disguise of being medical clinics. And we know whose sister brought those containers. So yes, there were scandals in the first term, but we know whom we can assign them to. They have tried to assign the Aurora and Kimurere Dam story to the deputy president, but we thank God of heaven because, you know, the truth always comes out. It's like a pregnancy, you can't hide it. So the DPP probably not even aware of what had overcome him, because this is the Holy Spirit at work, sat in studio and said, literally, owned up to the country that the Aurora and Kimurere Dam had nothing to do with the deputy president. Yet we had seen, a very systematic attack against the deputy president, calling him Mwizi, based on those two cases. So those scandals were there in the first term, but we know where to assign them. Kimurere and Aurora Dam, we know the former CS who has been interdicted for that. He was a President Uhuru direct appointee. It's got nothing to do with Dr. William Ruto. And you know, there's the Auditor's General report that goes on to tell us that the initial cause of those two dam scandals was because the president decided to authorize his minister to, peg the two dams for payment when his cabinet hadn't even discussed the project. So look, let him not give us stories of giants. The second term is worse. He owned up himself and told us that his government is losing 2 billion shillings per day. So I don't know whether he was telling us so that we can conduct prayers and stop it, or whether he is enjoying it, or he has a plan on how to stop it. But scandals have been there during the first term. There are more in the second term. Even those that were in the first term were his. So let him take responsibility.
Zote ni zake, za kwanza na za pili.
Kila mtu abebe msalaba yake.
Aya, let's go msalaba. Martin Warui, do you associate with the comments of the president? And do you feel, as the president is claiming, that in his first term he was not able to do much with his deputy, and that in his second term he has done much more, and that in the first term there were a lot of corruption, and the second term he's been able to do much more with handshake and without corruption? Well, do you associate with those comments?
I think the president was not speaking as a president of the country, was speaking like a typical politician, because when you talk about these things, you have to be a little bit more specific. Let there be some element of specificity. Don't talk in abstract terms. Say, I have a booklet here, highlight the projects that you have done or you claim to have done in the second term. Let Kenyans compare with your first term, Tell us in the first term we were able to do this much, but in the second term we have been able to do this much. When you stand on a podium, speaking to an audience of politicians, and you tell them you have been able to achieve a lot more in your second term than compared to your first term, I mean, every Kenyan would disagree very strongly with that statement, because today life is harder than it was in the first term of Jubilee. Today Kenyans are paying more taxes than they were paying in the first term of Jubilee. And the cost of life, or cost of living rather, has gone up in the second term than in the first term. Yes, the president has performed more in the second term, but in the wrong things. Perhaps that is what he forgot to tell Kenyans, you know. He is focusing on the wrong things. His priorities in the second term are upside down. He's not focusing on issues of bread and butter, you know, things that make sense to average Kenyans, you know. He is engaging, you know, in imaginary political, you know, programs and, you know, experiments that don't add any value to the average Kenyan. Today, Gerard, more parents are not able to pay school fees for their kids. When you look at the kind of appointments that the president has done in the second term, you know, they leave a lot to be desired, you know, and they reflect on the ability of this president as a head of state and the president, you know. When you look at people like Professor George Magoha, let us not even look at his competence, but the way he speaks, the arrogance, the indifference, the lack of empathy and sensitivity.
Okay.
These are people who are out of touch with the reality on the ground, you know. And you know the poverty level in this country is about 40%. It's actually gone up.
40%. Okay.
It used to be 36%. It has gone up. When I say about issues of bread and butter, putting food on the table, being able to educate your kids, you know, being able to go to school, being able to go to a health center and get the services, you know, that are required there. In the first term of Jubilee, we saw the president, you know, launch a very aggressive campaign to enlist people on the NHIF. People embraced the program, they enlisted. But today, if you go to those public hospitals, you cannot get those services. If it is about, for instance, with all the issues of corruption and lack of following the due process of medical equipment scheme, you know, he did that in the first term. So later, if the things that he has done in the healthcare in the second term is, you know, things to do with universal health coverage. He piloted in 3 counties, I think, in Kisumu, in Machakos, and in Nyeri. But those programs have shut down. They are not working. They are not on the ground.
Okay.
If you compare, for instance, the project or the focus on the NHIF in the first term, I think there were more results, more people enlisted.
Okay.
But if it's about the medical equipment scheme, that worked, but it was plagued with, you know, with a lot of issues, you know.
Understand there's some machines that have never, which have never worked.
Exactly.
Last 5 years.
So there was an effort there.
Okay.
This second term, we were also told, I remember, you know, the CS, the deposed, or you can say the disgraced CS for Treasury, you know, Henry Rotich. You know, he said when he was asked the question about debt, you know, he said, you know, we are making this capital, we are borrowing money to make these capital investments in the first term, but in the second term, we are going to have physical consolidation.
Okay.
Has that happened? We are even borrowing more today. So this second term has been more about guesswork by this president, and his guesswork has failed. You know, even when you are doing case, you know, you make an informed guess, but the president has not been, you know, making an informed guess, you know. For me, second term, there is nothing to smile about the second term of Uhuru Kenyatta's presidency, and therefore I don't agree with his statement that he has achieved a lot more in the second term than he achieved in the first term. In the first term, there was some coordination, there was some unity in government, there was some sense of direction in his government. In the second term, I mean, the less we talk about it, the better. It is such a shame. And the president, you know, should measure his words. He should also do some introspection and really interrogate some of these statements that he give in public, because, you know, it just leaves, you know, a very bad taste in the mouths of, you know, many Kenyans, you know, and many people get really, you know, irritated by such kind of statements, you know. Many of us cannot forgive President Uhuru, and I think he's done a lot of things that are not right. And that's why, Kenyans are saying, yes, you have not been able to achieve this, you have done all these bad things. The best that you can do for us now is just to finish up and go. But don't continue making those statements. Yeah, be careful about them. Just remain silent.
Maybe
finish up and go.
Why are you guys trying to shut down the president?
They are not. In Kikuyu, people say a person's house is built using the trees that he has, cut for himself, or rather cultivated.
Okay.
It's the materials that you have bought that are going to be used to construct a house for you.
So that's what you are now using to construct his legacy.
Exactly. So that is what you are trying to build.
Probably if I could just step in and answer Martin. The president is very much aware of what he's saying when he asks for him to be a little bit conscious of what he's saying. It's not that he's unconscious or subconscious or he's speaking without knowing what he's saying. He's very much aware of what he's saying. It's only that the problem here is that the president is assuming that the Republic of Kenya is full of uneducated, illiterate people who are not aware or not seeing what is happening. Okay. And he thinks that if he stands on a podium and tells us that he has done more for this country, suddenly we'll go like, oh yeah, he has done more. He has totally underestimated the collective intelligence of Kenyans, or he's just insulting our intelligence. Because the one of the points that Martin has brought up very well is that the second term is such a painful term for Kenyans.
Why do you say that?
Well, first of all, look at your standard of living. The cost of living is very expensive. The cost of food has almost doubled. You're being taxed left, right, and center. The other day, they were almost taxing pensioners. You can imagine, you've been working, or your father has been working for 60 years. He's ready to go home and earn ile kidogo anapewa, and then you want to tax that as well. I mean, that would have just made history in the world. Yeah. So there's higher cost of living. The taxes are all over the place. The health services are bad. I mean, you go to any government hospital, it's worse than it used to be. Okay. What would it cost this government? What would it cost President Uhuru if he had taken that 22 billion that he put in handshake, if he had taken it to Kenyatta National, if he had taken it to Thika Level 4, if he had taken it to some of these government hospitals and upgraded them? What would it have costed him if he had used a little bit of that 22 billion, or even the money that was used by the COVID relatives to bring in funny containers in the name of clinics? What would it have costed if he had truly given that tender, or allowed that tender to go to someone to truly bring clinics, mobile clinics that will go to mamas in Turukana? They stop giving birth out in the in the open, in the bush. What would it have costed him? He would have had a legacy that would not have needed to have an online team to tell us Uhuru delivers. Yet he devours. He's not delivering anything. Okay, look at the COVID pandemic. COVID has struck every country in this world. And so we are not saying that COVID is in Kenya because of Uhuru. What we're saying is that how it was managed, or how it's being managed, is terrible. We are having a pandemic, and then we have relatives going into some public health institution to get tenders. They don't even bring the gadgets and the equipment and the medication that is needed to handle this. Instead, they go and hike the prices of buying your masks and everything, and even don't deliver. Really, how can we now say that Uhuru is delivering? How can we now say that how can he dare to stand up and say that he has done more for this country than during the first term? Kenyans, about 3,000 plus Kenyans have died because of COVID.
All right.
Yet it's something that could have been managed better.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Umedungwa?
No,
Okay.
no.
Proceed.
Gerald,
Let me.
to add to that, if you ask a lot, many public servants, whether your relatives, your neighbors, or even your friends, a lot more public servants are missing on their salaries in time in the second term. If you look at the issue of funding counties, we are having more delays in disbursement of funds to counties in the second term. if you look at our level of debt, it has gone higher, you know. And the reason why things are bad or worse in the second term than they were in the first term, it's because many people in government who should be working for Kenyans, spending the time that they have in working for Kenyans, they are expending their energies in the wrong things. You literally find public servants engaging in political you know, projects and programs,
Exactly.
you know, and experiments. Today, if you go into a lot more PSs today and CSs, you will find them in political meetings.
Okay.
Not outlining or trying to fast track the implementation of government projects, but trying to plan and try to influence politics in 2022. A lot more public servants are doubling up in politics. It's not surprising, therefore, that things are a lot worse in this second term than they were in the first term. It's because the president has failed to offer leadership. You would not have found these things in President Kibaki's government.
Never.
And never forget that in those days, you know, ministers were politicians.
Yeah.
We used to get our ministers and assistant. And, you know, we even had more politicians in that cabinet, in the executive arm, because then you had assistant ministers, and one ministry could even have at least, you know, 3, depending on the size of that ministry. Today we have, in quotes, fewer politicians in cabinet, but they are doing more politics than, you know, even the cabinets that were political, you know.
Exactly.
It just shows you the lack of leadership and the ineptitude in this government. And this falls squarely on the doors of the president. It is him who has failed, because these people are only misbehaving because the president has allowed them to misbehave.
Okay.
Today, and this is, and let me make this point, Gerard and Sandra. You know, when we started saying respect the president, loyalty to the president, you know what that means? So long as you stand on a podium and pontificate how much you support the president and how much loyal you are, performance does not matter.
Exactly.
That is why you are saying these things, you know, because the things that make you become a darling of the system, it's how much you say you respect the president and you are loyal to the president, as opposed to how well performing you are as a public servant.
So basically, he's taken us back to the days of Kanu ya baba na mama, where for as long as you have the capacity or the capability, like JJ Kamodo, the late, may he continue to rest in peace, to shout how Uhuru is baba and how he's mama and how he's excellent, then you are a perfect civil servant. But if you stand up and you say, hello, your big 4 agenda is not unfolding as we expected. When you start questioning, why is the SGR, why has the SGR been reduced to just carrying people and cargo, yet it was supposed to be a tool to spur industrialization. It was supposed to be a tool to boost our GDP. You're told, oh, respect the president. Oh, you know, you're not an economist. You don't. Hang on. We have a multi-billion, 47 billion project on the ground, and all it's doing is ferrying people from Mombasa to Nairobi, from Nairobi to Mombasa, and to and forcing cargo importers to bring in, to use the SGR. The SGR was never supposed to be a tool of oppression. That you have to carry my container with SGR, and then at the same time my biashara is at Miritini, but you're bringing the container all the way to ICD Embakasi, and then I have to find now the headache of bringing it back to Mombasa. That's not what the SGR was supposed to be. The SGR was supposed to spur industrialization. You're supposed to get industries to pop up along the railway line. It's the president's responsibility through his Minister of Industrialization and whatever the other ministry that is involved to come up with an agenda and a strategy on how that would happen. Not to just carry people from left, right, and center and expect that you're going to carry passengers and make 47 billion appear. Never ever. I mean, you know, he's taken us back to the time where you have COVID billionaires, and as long as you're someone like Murade who is saying Jubilee is fantastic, it's the next thing after the kingdom of heaven, then you will never be interrogated, you will never be, investigated for, accusations that have been made against you. So he has taken us right back to the days of Kanu, and the days of Kanu were bad. Roads were bad, the economy was bad, and that's why you're seeing we're back to being bad.
Okay. All right, let's digress a bit. A school selection that happened yesterday. I've seen a lot of complaints from parents. I understand also there is a boy who was called into a girls' school in Isiolo. I don't know what's happening at the Ministry of Education, because there seems to be a lot of aggression or disagreement from parents on how it's being run. And I had Magua talking yesterday, and I think there could be more that could be decided from the CS and the ministry in itself, because we're dealing with children. We're dealing with the future of this country. And how that ministry is handled on its own. Yesterday also it declared that buses shall not be listed by government, by schools for to the community. When you look back again, where I come from, most of the buses are actually purchased by communities and the schools themselves. Let's start with the selection.
What is happening in the Ministry of Education? It's a failure. It's also, again, we will keep coming back to this point. It's reflective, or it's indicative of the failure of leadership in that ministry. And it also captures one of the mistakes that this president has been making. This president has a penchant for bullies, people who are aggressive. And actually, this is one of the things that has made President Uhuru fall out of favor, particularly with his backyard, whereby you have very aggressive ministers, very patronizing ministers who are so full of themselves. They think that knowledge starts and ends with them. And whatever other people think is not important. The Ministry of Education is very important. It's one of the key ministries. And for any president who desires to leave a solid legacy, then he must get it right at the Ministry of Education. That ministry has a lot of departments. I think it now has 5 principal secretaries, if I'm not wrong. It just captures how important that ministry is. One of the problems is that even though Magoha was an administrator, he was an administrator at the university level. The primary level and the secondary level is a different ballgame. It requires an entirely different type of administration. Magoha is a failure, if you ask me. The fact that he could deliver at NEC didn't necessarily mean that he could deliver at the Ministry of Education. Jacob Kaimenyi, Fred Matiang'i, and Ambassador Dr. Amina Mohamed did a better job at the Ministry of Education than Magoha has done. The minister needs to consult more, because education has a lot of stakeholders. He needs to consult more and give them space to air their views. He cannot run a one-man show. Because number one, I've told him he does not have experience in running, education sector, especially in the lower levels, primary level. If you compare with Uganda, and I'm not endorsing having a bloated cabinet, you realize that they even have a minister for the primary education level. She just focuses on that, and then now the president's, the first lady, is also the Minister of Education at the higher level. And even they think they have a Minister for Higher Education. That shows that president understands that running these different sectors of education requires different types of managerial skills and administrative skills, and also experience, So the confusion that you see is as a result of the bad leadership or the inept leadership of Professor Magoha. So the selection, because this is a problem that has been there, but we expect that progressively some of these issues are going to be ironed out, and that the process is going to be a lot more smoother than it was, Part of the problem is because in the Ministry of Education, we have a lot of cartels. And I think they interfere with the selection process, notwithstanding the efforts to digitize the whole process or to, make sure that it runs on technology, all of it, You'll always find people selling slots, promising parents slots in schools. So that interference brings in some problems. We do not know whether the problem is the platform that they are using, the ICT platform. It's that, but I think I am just trying to think what the problem could be. So that is one. So the issue of buses, Gerard, this is an African country. If you ask many Kenyans, they will tell you that they are as a result of community efforts.
Ubuntu.
Yeah, Ubuntu spirit, So like you have correctly put it, is that many of these buses are bought using the efforts and the benevolence of the community. People come together, they contribute funds, they get buses for schools, to facilitate movement of students from one place to the other. They engage because, schools have a lot of activities, extracurricular activities, From time immemorial, as part of reciprocity, schools have been letting communities use their buses at a small fee.
Okay.
Again, in the Ministry of Education, you have the problem of resources. Number one, it is underfunded. Then number two, the capitation never gets to schools in time. So it leaves schools in a very precarious situation insofar as resources or finances are concerned. So schools have to engage in other activities to boost their resources, their finances. One of the ways that they do that is to use or to give out their buses to the community, and then they get small amounts of money to keep them by. When you do not send enough resources to schools, when you send money late to schools, capitation, and then you bar schools from giving out their buses to the community. Number one, you are putting or setting the schools up against the community. You are taking away the good relations or undermining the good relations that exist between the schools and these communities. And then number three, you are not helping their financial situation. The minister is totally out of order on this issue, and he must be called out.
Right.
And the president must take a keener interest in this ministry. When the bad history of Jubilee is written, it is characters like Magoha and Matiang'i are going to have
the front pages
and very infamous chapters in that history book. The president must take a keen interest in these characters.
What are your thoughts on what's happening at the Ministry of Education?
The Ministry of Education, like Martin has said, should be one of the ministries that should be given utmost attention, because that's a ministry that lays the foundation for the type of citizens that you'll have in this country. If we start even from the time of Matiang'i, other than selling public land to the government again, where we have that billion-shilling scandal of the Ruaraka land, there's nothing much that the government of President Uhuru Kenyatta has achieved in the in the education sector. I don't think, like currently with CS Magoha, as Martin has said, this government has an appetite for bullies and condescending individuals who think that being a bully and pushing your way using thorax is how you implement leadership. I do not think we have like a functional ministry, because you see, for one, the current Minister of Education was the other day telling parents that you must pay fees in full. Yet before that, he's the same guy who had been telling principals, do not chase children away from school for school fees. If you look at the calendar, yes, we've had the COVID issue, but if you look at the calendar, it's actually been haphazard. You can tell that these people have been making up things to do along the way as the days progress. Like recently, we had a midterm break after the kids had just gone back for one month, I think. It was just a month. And then they went for a midterm break. That makes absolutely zero sense. So you can just see these guys are not organized. They're just doing things I think at the spur of the moment, which makes you wonder, doesn't the president have a system, from State House that gets to have an oversight over some of these key ministries, One can say, education, the Ministry of Education is big and the minister is struggling. And look, we're paying these people a lot of money. They're going home with over 1 million in terms of salaries. As a leader, he should be able to have, the CS should be able to have set up strategies and cascaded those strategies down to his PSs and all those other officers as you go down the ranks. And a good leader also has a system in place, a system that follows up on his strategies to make sure that his strategies are implemented. And remember, the strategies are so that they achieve the objective. So what is the objective? I'm sure if we ask CS Magoha today, what's your objective as a CS of education? I doubt if it give us his blueprint.
Okay.
Yeah. If you have a system in place, you'd be able to calibrate as, you counter check, you have oversight over what your officers are doing and you're able to calibrate and not every strategy is perfect. You go while fixing it along the way. When my daughter did her standard 8, she was called to some school in Malindi. Okay? And it's a day school. Okay?
Day school in Malindi.
A day school in Malindi.
And you're in Nairobi.
And by the way, we're living in Nairobi. So these messes have been there. And the fact that they have been there means that Magoha has got in there and he's not improving. You go somewhere to add value. You don't just go somewhere such now there can be a picture of you on the wall that you used to be a minister of education here. You go somewhere to add value. These problems of children being called to, not the wrong schools, but schools that don't match where they are, like you're in Nairobi and you want me to take my child to Malindi for a day school. How is that? How does that even make sense? So when he joined the Ministry of Education, he knew those problems are there. What has he done to rectify that? If we are to challenge him today and ask him, what have you done to rectify that? And you see, these are the problems that we have right across the government of President Uhuru Kenyatta. And it's popping up in now the various ministries. Okay. The backlash of this poor leadership is popping up in the various ministries, and that's why you're seeing it popping up in the Ministry of Education. Okay. You're seeing it popping up in the I don't know whether it's Ministry of Finance or it's the Ministry of Natural Resources, the guys who just keep hiking our fuel prices. Yeah, it's because of our borrowing. So that's the Ministry of Finance. You borrow left, right, and center. And so at some point you don't know where you're going to get the money that you're going to pay back as a country. So you decide, you know what, let SANDRA pay a little bit more for her fuel. These poor leadership tactics and styles are the ones that are popping up. And like now, it's very bad that they're costing our children. But the Ministry of Education, in my opinion, needs to go through a thorough overhaul. Remember, before that, we had Ambassador Amina. Yeah, I mean, and her tenure was just so colorless, and then instead of sending her home, we sent her to another ministry. And the joke was that alipeleka mchezo, Ministry of Education, akapelekwa kwa wizara mchezo. We should not have such jokes. As Kenyans, we should be able to say, hang on, she could not handle the Ministry of Education, she could not handle the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Can she go home? Yeah, the same thing. Matiang'i, he messed us up in the Ministry of Education. Fine, he's a powerful guy. They've covered it up for him. He managed to infiltrate Parliament. They could not even do anything to him then. But then he should have just gone home. Instead, what did we do? We've sent him to the Ministry of Interior. And again, we're seeing that poor leadership issue coming up because the Ministry of Interior has now become the bully of the country. You see cops you want to run, yet these are supposed to be watumishi kwa wote. Why? Because, the Bible says that the anointing flows from the top. What is God saying? He's saying that whatever character and personalities that are at the top is what is going to trickle down to everybody else. Right. So you have a bully at the top of the Ministry of Interior together with his PS, and then you find the police officers even on the ground where retired mzee Mwai Kibaki had really streamlined. Baka we were loving the cops, man. Now we are scared of them. You see a cop coming around the corner, you run. Yeah. So whatever is happening at the Ministry of Education, if we can go back to your point, is just one of the many manifestations of the failed leadership of this regime.
Okay.
Yeah. Lastly, two things. Remember, in that ministry, there was a long-serving principal secretary by the name of Dr. Belio Kipsang. A lot of things the good things that have happened in that ministry were because of the stewardship and the sobriety of this guy. Magoha comes in, there is a clash of egos, there is a fallout between him and Dr. Kipsang. And Dr. Kipsang is replaced. He is taken to another ministry, CG, to be in the department CG of ASAL. You remove a guy who was literally the pulse of that ministry, a guy who allows you, who has the accumulated experience of running that ministry as the technical, as the principal secretary, but because of the fallout with the PS, the president chooses to sacrifice him, takes him to another colorless ministry, and he leaves this guy too. And this points to two things. It also now brings us to the other point, which is that, as a manager, because the president should also be a manager, Gerard, if you want optimal performance, you must be able to match people with their skills.
Exactly.
Their experience, their expertise.
Okay.
That is what the president has not been able to do. Lastly, there are sacrificial lambs in this government. There are people who will always be forced to carry the cross, and there are other people who can misbehave the way they want. They can be as rudderless, they can be non-performers, but they are the darling of the system.
Okay.
And most of those guys have been getting away with, their mistakes,
Misdemeanors.
Yeah, some of them are not even misdemeanors,
They're gross misconduct.
That is even gross misconduct,
I'm being too polite. Huh?
Yeah, you're being too kind to them, but let us call it a So I think the transferring Belio Kipsang from that ministry was, was not a very good decision, and I think the Minister of Education is going to suffer for that, because Belio had established, a very good relationship with the stakeholders.
Okay.
And he was a guy who could talk to stakeholders and calm them and tell them, what needs to be done. Give credit to the guy, but that is the legacy. That's become the hallmark of this government.
All right. We'll come back to Siasa. Now, the president has declared officially that he's going to support ANASA, Principle for Presidency, in 2022. It's been long coming, and the deputy president as well has been reacting, and I think he's finding his way out, because yesterday in his statement he said, no. So now that you've said that, is it not good for those who feel deserve to go and build or find a home in UDA? But anyway, let's start with what the president's statement, that he's going to support ANASA principle. We have 5 NASA principles. I don't know which one of them it is, because in Abariul in Western, he supported Mudavadi. The other he supported Kalonzo. In Kisumu, he supported Raila Odinga. Sandra, I don't know what you make of that, especially being part of this book campaign for the president. And actually, you're still in a red coat. So maybe
I wore a red coat because I couldn't find a blue one.
I think you're still going through the process of heartbreak.
I'm still trying to get divorced. Let me tell you something. In the beginning, when the president, or rather the breakup between the president and the deputy president started to become pronounced, a lot of people started saying, they're trying to make excuses, and they said, oh, it's a strategy. It's a strategy to calm down Raila, and then later on these guys will gang up and they'll kick Raila out. And I said, I do not think so. I stood, in fact, if you look at most of my posts from the beginning, I said, President Uhuru Kenyatta knows exactly what he's doing. The word on the streets back in the day was that one of the things that Deputy President William Ruto was firm on during the first term was hakuna wizi kwa hii serikali. Remember, these guys had just come out from an ICC scare.
Yeah.
So he was so determined that they were not going to, at any point in the future, ever go back to something like that.
Okay.
And one of the things that could have driven them back to the ICC very fast would have been, multi-billion-dollar scandals and things like that. Because remember, people like Raila were on the lookout to see what can they get, grasp on, and use his friend, or said to be his close friend at the ICC, and drag these two guys back. And Dr. Ruto was determined that their tenure as the duo would be sterling, because remember there was a time when they got elected in 2013, Barack Obama had said something to the effect that choices have consequences. And he was determined to prove not just the world, but to prove Kenyans wrong and to show Kenyans that you made the right choice. And that is Dr. William Ruto for you. He likes to do things right, and he likes to do them right. So when he kanyagiad stealing in the first term, rumor had it that a lot, and I emphasize rumor because we don't want to be picked up from here. Rumor has it that a lot of people,
you also have to utilize government resources.
Yes, a lot of people.
The people of Kisumu say, "Tunalipa usuru bana, leta tiagas."
Exactly. A lot of people.
They need to give you a lift.
They need to give me a lift. Were unhappy. And they decided. And by the way, during the 2017 elections, there's a friend of mine who called me and told me, Sandra, unakazana hivyo na unajua huyu Ruto wako, somewhere along the way we'll throw him out. And I thought it was a joke. I wish I could mention him on air, but I do not want to because we had not. And so when the issue started in 2018, the handshake and all that, and I could see where it was going. It brought to mind the theory that people had determined, even before the 2017 elections, that at some point or another they were going to get rid of William Ruto. Okay. Why? Because during the first term, he had stopped them from stealing. Okay? They needed him out of the way. So we saw that coming. Yeah? And that is why the animosity started or was kicked off. And then when people, now we go back to the point where I was saying, when people started saying that this is just a ploy to calm Raila, I said, no, this is a bigger plan. Okay? There are people who are close to the president who needed to, who believed that it was their right to get rich because the president was in power. And here comes this Kalenjin man who is stopping these Okuyu guys from getting money. Okay? And so they had to get rid of him. And it was a bigger story. And the bigger story was that what President Uhuru needed to do was to make sure that he had Raila by his side so that Raila does not whistle blow. Okay? If Raila was still playing his opposition role, believe you me, these COVID billionaires would be down in the dust today. All those guys who pulled out from KEMSA.
The Capitol Hill press conferences.
He would be pushing. Believe you me, the SGR story would be something else. Okay? We would know the nitty-gritty details of why the SGR bill doubled. We would know who owns this road that is running from the airport to Westlands. Okay? And all these things are just money-eating opportunities that these people had decided they must make money now that their own is there. And Dr. Ruto was a hindrance. Okay? So when he says that he's now coming back to your original point, when he says that he's supporting the NASA, ni mchezo tu. Unye is very smart, by the way. Let nobody try to tell you that he's constantly drunk. He's very smart, and he's got people who are around him who are able to give him, some intellectual boost.
Okay.
He's not going to support any NASA principle per se. Hii ni kuhakikisha tu akina Gideon and Kalonzo and Wetangula and even Raila now still retain affiliation to him. Okay, so that he can finish whatever it is that his people or whatever it is that they are doing in the background. Look, the other day people were kicked out of where was that place? Kariobangi and what's the other? And Ruai. And we all know why they were kicked out. Somebody's city has to be built and the drainage goes through there. Yeah. So these people are just buying time, or he's buying time so that he can achieve certain personal objectives. And that I say without fear or favor. Okay? So ni cinema, ni kipindi. So he has to keep the NASA people happy, the NASA brigade happy, while he plays this role. But if I may close by saying on this particular subject, by the way, whoever President Uhuru names as his choice, pole kwako, because you're going to lose.
Why?
Let me tell you, Kenyans are so tired with President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. We are so tired. They're tired because of the economic strife that we're going through. And I say that with authority because I saw it in Juja. I am seeing it in Kiambaa.
Okay.
In Juja, when we hit the ground, kitu walikuwa anatuuliza, huyu Koimburi anasimama na nani? Bado ako Jubilee? No. Ako chama ya PEP. Oh, si ya Uhuru? Hapana. Then you say chama ya PEP ni ya Moses Kuria. Unaona the lights turn on. Guys are very excited. The only other question that was coming forward was Jambaru ako na hasla. Ako na hasla. Unaona hapo naingia tick. It's the same thing that's playing out in Juja. I mean in Kiambaa today. Kiambaa today nobody wants Jubilee. They're fed up. And nobody wants Uhuru. They're fed up. In fact, when in our campaigns, we're not even talking about anything negative to do with Karirinjama. We're talking about, we just, you just go there and you say, unajua mtu wenu sasa mnataka amesimama na Jubilee. Hiyo kitu ndio tutaki.
So let me ask you, Sandra. So are you in short saying that it's consequential? The support is inconsequential? The
support is totally inconsequential.
Right.
He can even support whomever he wants to support, whether in NASA or outside of NASA. Kitu ningemuomba tu President Uhuru Kenyatta, I beg you for the love of Jesus, do not claim that you support Deputy President William Ruto. Utamharibia kura.
But the question is, before I get back to WARUI, now if you're saying it's inconsequential, then why the emotions from the Deputy President that we were seeing from yesterday?
I think
if Uhuru support is inconsequential,
yes.
If you don't want the endorsement of President Uhuru Kenyatta, then why the emotions? Why the feelings? Why the fall?
You see, I think the statement by President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday, on the day that he said that, was for Dr. William Ruto the final confirmation that he is actually the guy behind all the troubles that my fifth has been going through. So all that Dr. William Ruto was coming out to say yesterday was, so it has actually been you. That is where the emotion, I would peg the emotion to. Okay. There's a time the fifth said, when I say the fifth, I'm sure we all understand.
I don't understand.
The fifth, or my fifth, happens to be Dr. William Samoei Ruto, because he is going to be the fifth president of the Republic
Okay, so
of
whenever
Kenya.
we hear the fifth, it's William.
Unajua ni William.
Okay. So.
There's a time he said, we were at a session, and he said, there was a time when he stood and would say, if there is one vote that he's definitely sure of and he's definitely confident about, it's a vote from his friend Uhuru Kenyatta for the presidency. Okay. And he said, if there's any vote that he's sure of, it was that one, because he was like, they were very good friends and they have walked this political path together. And today he says, if there's one vote that he's definitely not sure of, and he is definitely at some point not stopped thinking about it, it's the one for Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Okay. So it's not that he has been expecting any endorsement. No. Okay. It's just that by President Uhuru coming out and saying, I will support a NASA principle, he has come out openly to say, whatever I promised, kumi yangu, kumi ya Ruto, I am, forget vile mnasikia watu wakisema kina Kimunya wakisema, ni mimi sasa nasema, I have rescinded. Okay? And by rescinding, he is reconfirming to Ruto and to every other Kenyan that every drama, kila madharau imeonyeshwa mpaka from akina Kibisho to Ruto, and everything that DP has gone through, it has been by his hand. That was what that statement said. Yeah.
That's what you got. Back to you, WARUI.
Yeah.
Okay. The president now is in NASA. Sandra is saying the president's support is inconsequential, but they still have a problem with the president not supporting the fifth, as she's saying. As she's calling him. Okay.
You know, the people who support the deputy president, rightly so, are very confident, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. You can see the way they speak. They are full of confidence. I think it's because of the work that they have put into this candidature.
Okay.
So, but this is very interesting, and listen to this, Gerard. You know, the deputy president needs the endorsement of President Uhuru. But the endorsement that the deputy president needs from Uhuru is the endorsement that Uhuru gave him in the first time. You see those clips?
Yeah.
The president says, yangu kumi ya Ruto kumi. Those clips are what is going to help the deputy president. If he goes to Mount Kenya and plays those clips, that is going to help him a lot. This the endorsement that would come in the second term, that is not important, you know. People know or remember the endorsement that President Uhuru gave to William Ruto in the first term, and that is going to count for something. Akisema yangu kumi and ya Ruto kumi, people are going to go nuts, you know, in that place, and that is very important. These are the endorsement of the second term with all its baggage. I think the deputy president does not need this second term's endorsement. He is fine with the one that he got in the first term. So those statements that President Uhuru made in the first term are going to haunt him very different. I don't know how he is going to explain to his people back in Mount Kenya backyard why those statements that he made then do not hold water anymore. He's going to have a lot of difficult time explaining and persuading those people. And I can tell you, he's not going to be very successful. The chances of success are, you know, almost not there. The endorsement of the NASA principles. Let's be, you know, candid on this issue. Gideon Moi, he is an unstarter. Kalonzo Musyoka, he is beyond help. Musalia Mudavadi, that is a guy, even if you left him in the field alone, he cannot win. If you look at Baba, Baba is not the Baba of today is not the Baba of 2017 or 2013 or 2007. His political capital has suffered immensely, especially because of two things. Number one, the fallout between him and his NASA core principles, and then number two, his association with the president, especially in this second term, because a lot of things have gone, or, you know, in this second term, you know. So he's suffering, his support is suffering because of those two, and also that is the fact that the deputy president has been very aggressive, you know, in going to areas where the former prime minister has hitherto enjoyed, you know, almost fanatical following, you know. So the deputy president has been, you know, pushing very aggressively to go and, you know, get a pie of that, you know, vote, you know. So he is not a man who just sits in Karen or wherever he has, you know, residence and, you know, waits for endorsement and things to happen to him. Even the Bible, the good book, says that things come to those people who, and I think the deputy president said that when they were launching the BBI, you cannot just sit back and wait for somebody's endorsement. What if it doesn't come? What if it doesn't come?
Ikikosa kuja itakuwaje?
Sandra will tell you here, even as they go to Kiambaa, if you look, all people agree that Kareri Njama is a strong candidate because he has been on the ground, you know. But there are things that are working against him, you know. He is only a strong candidate because of the work perhaps that he has done on the ground, you know. But he has made mistakes that are one. He has done some decisions that were not strategic, and that is going to work against him. Like I said, you know, when we were off air, a political candidate who spends a lot of time interacting with the voters is a very hard candidate to beat. And that is the surest endorsement. The best bet is the endorsement from the voters.
From the manager.
These are the endorsements that happen in, you know, funerals and, you know, boardrooms and in political meetings. Those ones, they are not as effective as the endorsement that you get from the people. From 2007, Gerard, let's face it. You know, in 2007, Kalonzo Musyoka was a presidential candidate. He came number 3. Musalia Mudavadi was the running mate of Baba, you know. William Ruto then was not among the people who were top politicians. But let's be honest. If there is a person whose political capital has, you know, appreciated in the last 15 years, it's the political capital of Dr. William Ruto.
Exactly.
He is the only candidate. He is on an upward trajectory politically.
And how has he done it? He has done it by seeking the endorsement of Wanjiku from day one. If you look at how DP has operated, he has not relied on the political class to lift him up, he has relied on Wanjiko. And even when you look at DP's, his personnel, his staff, he's got young people around him right now. He picks people, grows them up, grows them politically, and then gets them to move on to the next stage, then grows another crop. So at any given time, he has a platform of individuals who have come from the ground, who are now the ones who are lifting him up stage by stage.
And even the worst enemies, the worst critics of the deputy president will agree. Even people perhaps in the unguarded moments in NASA, even the president knows that this guy is a tough cookie, This is not a person. He's not a pushover. If you want to defeat this guy, then you are going to do a little bit more than, issuing stale political endorsements that bear no consequence at all. SANDRA has said it all, that those endorsements are not going to count for anything. Okay. Because you see, even if you are placing your bet, or even offering your support to a certain candidate, Gerard, you must engage in an exercise whereby you are able to gauge and say, I have to make an informed choice. When you look at Kalonzo, how many people are persuaded that Kalonzo can beat Raila or even deputy president? Not so many. If you look at Musalia Mudavadi, a lot of people will tell you this guy is
doesn't seem to have a lot of faith.
If you go to the yes I vote guy, Gideon Moi, that is a joker. He's just a guy who feels he is entitled to become a president because his father was a president, and then Uhuru, who was also the son of a president, became president, and now he believes because of that history I can also try my luck
here. The St. Mary's Club.
Exactly. But now Gideon, even in his backyard of Baringo, I mean, what support does he command? If today Uhuru were to endorse Gideon, a guy who is not even commanding support in his backyard of Baringo, how can... of what consequence will that support be?
Mr. Ivat, yes, from Baringo, cannot even control his county assembly, MCAs. They've all quit. Not quit, but they're all moving parties. But at the end of the day, Bitok, let me tell you something. Okay. If anyone in the NASA brigade is believing President Uhuru that he's going to endorse them, can they just open their eyes and ask themselves, how honest is he? If he had promised to stand with Ruto and he has stand against them, kwani wao wamejengwa na gorofa that he's going to be honest with them? He will also betray them.
So that issue of endorsement, watu waende, unajua mtaani tunasema lazima uvuruge ground.
Yes.
Ground lazima uingie na uvuruge.
Lazima
uvuruge ground. Hakuna njia nyingine.
Uongee na Wanjiko na kwa saa hii Wanjiko ameshaongeleshwa na Hasla na tuko kwa wheelbarrow.
And the deputy president aliwaambia mambo bado, siasa bado. Ipo siku tutaweka koti chini, tukunje shati, tuingie kwa ground. When that time comes, whereby we do 15 rallies every day or 10 rallies. Sasa hapo ndio when the rubber meets the road. That is what I heard you saying yesterday. That time will be the moment of reckoning, And now wengine like Baba says, farasi tu ni wawili, wengine ni punda. They are just escorting other people onto that thing. We should not even be spending... It's only that we want to be fair and decent, but we cannot spend a lot of time discussing these guys. These are serious jokers. Okay.
Aya, bunge la mwananchi iko wazi. Wacha tufungue bunge kidogo. Bunge la mwananchi iko wazi. Nambari ni 07798010 au 07798010. Bunge la mwananchi iko wazi au 07798010. Unaweza piga simu uweze kuchangia kwenye mjadala. Unaweza kuzungumza pamoja tujue wapi kuna nini. Nimesikia hapa watu wanaanza kumaliza watu. Haya. Bunge la mwananchi, piga simu 07798010 kama kawaida. 07798010. Tunafungua simu uweze kusikia maoni yako. Zile tunasubiri simu. Twende Kiamba. Lakini tayari amuchelewi bwana. Jambo, bunge la mwananchi.
Morning, Gerard.
Good morning to you. How are you?
No, conversation imeshika chini. This is Martin from Kikuyu.
Martin Ngoni kutoka Kikuyu.
VP.
Unajua yeye ni fan of the week for next week. Sasa Martin after Martin ni Martin mwingine.
At least finally we can be able to put a face on Martin WARUI. Huyu jamaa na wisdom kama kitu kingine.
Nakwambia.
That guy is really wise, and we need people who can be able to speak out on issues facing the country.
Okay. Your contribution?
My contribution today is that Now Uhuru has stopped being the president. He has now gone back to being Uhuru the politician.
Okay.
And because you see, when you say that you have been able to achieve a lot in your second term than your first term, what does it say about your deputy president? Does it mean now he was not doing anything to help you steer the country towards the right direction? You see, and this is not the first time. You saw during the launch of the BBI, whereby the president stood there and said that tulikuwa tunaenda na hizi lakini side moja lakini akaanza kuenda ile upande mwingine.
Alisema aligeuza miti ya relay.
You see, that is politics. You see, that's when a president stops being the president and he starts being the politician.
Okay.
You see, that is like just pulling the rug under the feet of the deputy president. But you know, uzuri ni amesharuka.
Okay.
Unajua.
Okay.
When somebody tries to pull the rug below your foot now and you jump up, then definitely you're not going down. So he's trying to bring down the deputy, but it's not happening, and that's why he's on health of shelter. Trying to find somebody who can be able to succeed him. You can't. The deputy president is way ahead of these people.
Okay.
These other people are just small horses. It's not even, they're not horses. Even, you know, we have some donkeys that are a little bit bigger.
Okay.
Kuna zile zingine dogo. So, our wengine wote ni zile, we know we have horses and then we have donkeys and then we have big donkeys and small donkeys.
Okay. So they are donkeys but small donkeys. Okay.
Yeah, so the ground nimekuwa juzi mashinani and I can really tell you that the ground is rotonated.
Okay.
So it's going to be really a tough one for these guys, and tunaongoza the ground. 2022 we are waiting for them so that tuoneshe Hustler Nation is alive and kicking.
Asante sana. Haya. Watu wa New Jersey. Jambo.
Hello bwana Gerald, vipi?
Mambo kaka, bunge la mwenye nchi iko wazi kwako. Naona umefurahi sana leo. Kuna nini?
Wacha nikufurahi kabisa leo. Yaani hao umeleta.
Watu wa diaspora mlali.
Umeleta. Ile kitu wamesema. Ile kitu wamesema na wale umeleta wanatakiwa wawekwe kwa constitution. Hawa ndio ground. Hawa ndio ground, mimi nakwambia.
Ongeza kwa BBI.
Nimekuwa hata na wasiwasi kama hii kioski kiko kesho. Kitu ya pili.
Munichangie kitu ya kuchunga kioski sifungu.
Wanapeana example na wanasema vizuri. Political capital. Kuna wale political capital imekuwa spent na Daktari William Samoei Ruto Kipchirchir inaendelea kukua kila siku. Na wanasema hata wamesema mahali ingine kuna mwingine atakipewa kiwanja peke yake hawezi. Sasa ni nini nyingine mtu ataongeza kweli? Hivi ndio ground iko. Hakuna kitu kingine ile tutaongeza. Mimi nashukuru kabisa. Yaani nimekaa mimi nasema hiki kipindi hivi leo kama watafunga kioski, watu wafunge, tutafungua ingine hapo kando. Iko nini? Tuambiane ukweli. Hiki kitu tumevumilia sana. Tuambiane ukweli, tusidanganyane kwa hapa. Kabisa kama hawa vile wameongea. Yaani hata mimi na jasho tu inatoka hivi kufurahi nikisikia kwamba naona
usiku huko New Jersey.
Watu vile wanaongea. Watu wanaongea kwa utaratibu. Hakuna fujo, hakuna ni hata nimeshare mpaka Facebook ikaniambia you can't share anymore. Nimesukuma karibu sijui 50 gapi. Kwa sababu nilikuwa nataka kila mtu watu wasikie hii BBI ikitengenezwa hivi ndio vile inatengenezwa. Hawa vile wanasema. Because this is and I'm very sober in this. This is what the ground is saying.
Okay.
The political capital ya William Samoei Ruto inaongezeka kila siku kwa utaratibu, hakuna mtu analazimishwa. Yaani mimi naangalia mpaka saa zingine mimi nasema kwani ni kalta manini, kwa sababu yani hata unakuta mtu anasema tutaki tu yeye afanye vile anafanya, lakini tukorogee nchi, awache tu William aendelee vile anaendelea. Na mimi utaleta kipindi lini? Kwa sababu ile utaleta
anakuja kidogo alafu ikabidi apeane msichana, so amemaliza kupeana msichana, so kwa hivyo July anakuja.
Hawa usiweke mbali kwa kipindi.
Asante sana ndugu.
Wacha kuletanga wale watu wanakuja kutukoroga hapa. Sisi tunataka kuyawa, ndio watu tunataka kusikia, kwa sababu ground iko hivi. Kama watafunga, mimi nitafungua, nitakusaidia kufungua ingine ya 30.
Unatafutia visa nikuje New Jersey. Na hata fika Subaru haifiki huko.
Kamili werecho orwe. Kamili.
Asante sana ndugu yangu. Thank you so much. God bless. Asante. Bunge la Mwananchi, jambo. Bunge la Mwananchi. Bunge la Mwananchi, good morning. Jambo. Bunge la Mwananchi, tafadhali zungumza, zima sauti pale nyuma kwa sababu naona kama tunajisikia pale nyuma nini yako, simu yako. Bunge la Mwananchi.
Good morning.
Good morning to Farid Faraji. Nimesikia tu sauti, najua ni Farid. Najua sijakosea.
Habari asubuhi.
Salama sana Farid, mambo?
Salama sana. Salamia Sandra na Musamti.
Sasa Martin Warui. Rona Martin Warui sasa amefungua mlango wa mafans. Sasa wewe ni next pia.
Amefungua mlango wa mafans. Naona anafanya kazi nzuri.
Sasa wanza kununua tu ndimu na limau usafishe koo. Wewe unakuja next.
Sawa.
Sasa mchango wako.
On the fact that President Kenyatta has worked in the second term more than the first term, These are points tunasemanga, piga tu makofi amalize kuongea aende. Because everything is just in black and white. You can just see. The first term's economy is way different to this term's economy.
Okay.
Number two, all the mega projects that were launched in the first term are being completed in this second term.
Okay.
So you cannot take merit on something that you launch with somebody else, then you complete with another person, saying that you are now working at the end. Like just in any mathematics question, you don't mark the answer. You start from the formula downwards to the answer. You are not going to be given 4 marks because of the answer. Unaweza kuwa copy. But now the formula and everything should matter.
Okay.
Let us see hii project ilianzwa lini. Why is it ending in 2021 or 2022? And when was it initiated? Maybe it initiated in 2016 to end in 2022 as per the plan, 4 years or 5 years. So you are seeing the end result. But the fact is, the first term projects are now ending now. So you cannot take merit for all the projects that are being completed now.
Okay.
Hapo ametudanganya. Number two, about the endorsement. Those are politics of long gone. Those days are gone. You are not supposed to be endorsed as a man. Ukiamua unaoa. Si lazima uambie unaoa. Ukiambia unaoa utakuwa unajilazimisha, and that won't be like something from your heart. You will be doing it for the sake of people. So when William Ruto is telling us, Siasa bado, I know what he means. I know what he's capable of. Raila Odinga cannot manage to run. Mzee amekuwa mgonjwa, amezeeka. He cannot. Hata kama mtasukuma yeye, he can't.
Okay.
Raila cannot travel to Kisumu today and address a rally, go to West and address another rally. He has to go to Kisumu, alale, amukia asubuhi rally, apumzika, apigwe massage, alale.
Jamani Farid.
Na si kupenda kwake ni miaka yake na ruhusu hiyo. Si kupenda kwake ni miaka yake. Let us not expect too much from him. His age does not allow. He has to rest enough. Hata madaktari wako wanaambia kidogo aende Mombasa pumzikia huko. He cannot do rallies in Mombasa siku mbili. Amepumzika tuko. So that is something, it will be a walkover for William Ruto. Mimi sioni kama kuna competitor very serious for William Ruto. Number two, there's this Jimmy Wanjigi anasimama.
Nasikia amesimama na sijui kama nimegua market. Tunaenda hiyo, tukienda hii phase ya mwisho sasa. Hii phase ya mwisho tutazungumzia mambo ya Wanjigi na Kiamba. Na pia tuangalie mambo ya Central Kenya. Nasikia sasa kuna Central, alafu kuna Central A na B, Central East and West. Sasa sijui
kuna Central East and West. So what really happens? Murang'a people feel it is their time, and they don't have a strong candidate now.
Okay.
Like the likes of Mango area are not serious guys; those are brokers.
So that's why they are mushering Wanjigi.
Wanjigi now is a project from Uhuru Kenyatta. Although there's a party that they are planning, New Green Belt party that is to be chaired by Sabina Chege.
Hata mimi nilisikia
sijui. That party is there. Iko hiyo chama inapangwa. It is on in the making. Maybe by tomorrow or the day after tomorrow watakuwa wametangaza.
Farid.
You just mark me right.
Sawa. Haya maliza. Naona kuna watu kwa line.
Sawa, Salavia Paradise ndio jikaze bana, next week tuko na wewe.
Asante sana ndugu yangu, kwa na siku njema. Jambo bunge la Mwananchi.
Yeah, morning Bidok.
Safi sana. Huyu
Yeah, huyu
ni
ni
Abraham ama Abraham Jelanga?
Abraham Jelanga kutoka Eldoret.
Mambo?
Nashukuru sana kwa kipindi.
Nashukuru ndugu yangu, niambie.
Na Sandra anaweka wazi ile ambaye inakula mpaka mwananchi.
Ala?
Ile ambaye ningependa kusema tu ni kwamba President anasema amefanya vizuri term 2 kuliko term 1.
Kabisa.
Ile 59 billion.
Unasema mpaka A+.
Hakuna A+.
Aya?
Hiyo hakuna kitu kama hiyo. Hiyo 59 billion yenye ilienda kwa shule yenye hakuna. Nani aliweka sahihi hiyo pesa? Ilienda huko. Ile watu wenye waliiba pesa ya NHIF mpaka sasa hakuna mtu amewahi shtakiwa, wanatoa mwisi kutoka kwa hii ministry mpaka ministry nyingine. Alafu wanatuambia ati imefanya vizuri kuliko siku ile ya kwanza. Ile kitu tu yenye ile uchungu yenye iko ndani ya mioyo yetu ni unasema tu maliza uende. Amaliza aende. Hakuna mambo ya ati kuongeza, unatuongezea uchungu kuongeza muda. Pole. Na akikuja na bana dola naweza endelea kidogo. Hakuna hata benkila inaweza zuia ama hata kama kuna benkila strong hakuna itenye itakuwa. Asante sana Abu kutoka Eldoret, nashukuru sana. Please don't leave the broadcast, endelea pale tuendelee kuzungumza pamoja. Asante. Na usalimia tu Eldoret. Haya. Ni bunge la mwenye nchi bado iko wazi 07798010 au 07780010 au 07780010. Watu wa New Jersey wamesema tusiogope kioski kifungwe. Watakifungwa wanafungua ingine. Bunge la mwenye nchi.
Hello.
Jambo.
Hi, how are you, Gerard?
Fine, how are you?
I'm very well. My name is Modani. They know me on Facebook as Nonibel Uso, and I am a big fan of Sandra. I'm so glad to finally see her.
Wow, thank you so much. I was also happy to see her, to put a face to name.
And they bring in such guests because, you know, we love politics and politics is life. I love the way you've articulated the issue of Ministry of Education. That one has really touched me because I have kids who are going to Form 1 and a lot of parents are complaining. Okay. So I love the political angle to it. And you know what, Gerard, what you give us here is essentially what is running our lives.
Wow,
so every time you bring a guest to the show and they're articulating things that are touching us on the grassroots, we're like, wow, this is it. This is life.
Wow, really appreciate
that. So my request right now, make Sandra a resident because you know what? She can be able to relate both.
In fact, nimeambiana nyumbani aletewe nguo atoke studio. Niko na bavu hapa, atakuwa anaoga tu akikula kikasho.
Absolutely. And then you know siasa ni maisha. Those people who say, okay, I love the way Mandago says siasa tuziweke kwa mapafu, when it goes out we breathe out. But no, me my siasa I always say, naziweka hapo kwa aorta, in between the aorta and the vena cava, katikati ya roho hapo. Politics is life. It's affecting our education. It's affecting our children. And to hear Uhuru telling us that surely he has done better this time than last time. Aki, honestly, mi naona tu clown imevaa ile nose kubwa ya red, and we do not want that to do. So yes, thank you, Gerard, for the show, and thank you for Sandra and the other gentleman. He is so articulate. Wow.
Martin Warui. We pick, you know, the Tatako has very serious fans. He's been a fan, so I picked him from the calls, like you are doing now. So one of these fine days will be the fan of the week.
Oh, well, you welcome me. I will make so much noise, you'll throw me out. So let's stick with Warui.
We love noise here. We are very good fans of noise.
Wow, he is great and he's really handsome. So when you bring a very beautiful girl and a very handsome guy, tunakwama sote hapo, but we love the flow of the show. We
so
love
I think I should have 30 minutes for Cupid.
Oh, goodness me. Oh, my God. We need prayers before that. Special prayers.
What was your name again, please? Mudoni?
My name is Mudoni. I go by Noni Bell on Facebook.
Noni?
I am a big Noni Bell. Like okay. Bell. B-L-E.
Naambia nani anisaidia hapa niona.
Ambia Sandra kuonyeshe.
Haya, Sandra kanionyesha.
Nitakuonyesha.
Haya, asante sana. She should come in. You should come in one of these fine days as a fan of the week.
Oh, I will. I definitely will do that. But make sure that you have some cops outside there. mi nakuanga na makasiriko ya siasa, because you know politics is life. We don't like the way politics is taking us. We would wish to have more control politics like we had in the first term, and we pray for that. And we ask all Kenyans, anybody who's listening, we tone down ourselves, tusikubali kupelekwa kwa hiyo njia wanajaribu kutupeleka.
Okay.
We just agree to be peaceful people and to be loving people and to reject all nonsense that is being rammed down our throats. And thank you, Gerard. Thank you for this show. Enjoy vile ujawaiona.
Thank you, Sana Vedoni. I really appreciate it. Thank you, and God bless. And keep it, tackle.
All right. Definitely so. Sandra, hola.
Yeah. Thank you, Modoni. See you back online.
Okay, see you back online.
Asante sana Mutoni. Okay. Mudhoni. Mudhoni. Aya. Bunge la mwenye nchi bado iko wazi. Simu mbili za mwisho. Two last calls. Bunge la mwenye nchi iko wazi. 0779-800-010. Naona chairman wa diaspora amefika. Jambo chairman.
Wanabito.
Ala?
Nimeambia watu ya fire brigade wakuja hapo karibu.
Anasema I've got as many of tackle is fire. Niambia chairman.
You made hata siwezi lala bwana. Umeleta watu leo kabisa.
Watu wa diaspora mmekataa usingizi.
Leo wenyewe umetuweka.
Niambia dadi.
Unajua mimi nakubaliana na Sandra kwa sababu nilikwambia bitoka few I think that was last year nilikwambianga afadhali tuweke chairman wa nyumba 10 wa Ministry of Education. Huyu jamaa na CV yake ya 60 pages he is nothing. I mean I don't want to disrespect him, so nitawachia hapo kwa sababu ningeweka mambo ngumu kidogo.
Ungeongeza zaidi.
Ningeongeza zaidi.
Na ngambo ni mbali kwa sababu. People need to analyze our leaders effectively and say when they fail, we need to tell them. Okay.
Unfortunately for me, wakati nasikia mtu anasema sasa wewe imagine hii mambo na COVID na traveling expenses na kila kitu. Kwa nini uende day school Malindi? I don't get it. Alafu akiulizwa swali, he is very rude, atakwambia mutadu. So I think we should also have a way to fire some people and get them out of office.
Okay.
Because they are not doing a good job. But all I will say is I'm very one of the things that I appreciate Bitoknik, the variety of people you bring. Inaonekana Sandra amekuwa favorite of the show. So I know I'm gonna return. Probably I will see her again tomorrow. Akikuja to challengeana kidogo is good. My prayer always, unajua Bitok. Yes, my prayer and my hope always is Kenyans will get to a level where we interrogate issues.
Okay.
Ask the hard questions. Hata kama ni mtu wako mwenye umechagua unataka mpigia kura, muulize maswali kabisa. What does success look for? How do we judge your period in office?
Okay.
Give us a goal right now. Useme mimi mnamfanyia mtihani yangu nile mtamark marking scheme ndio hii.
Okay.
So that when you get in office you don't do it, we kick you out, no question. Exactly. If we can do this from FCA, we can do this to the government, do this to the members of parliament, we can do this to the senators, and hold people accountable. When hata kama wametufungia hatuwezi wapiga nje, because me have been a very good champion of recall, lakini walifanya kitu hapo wakatufungia hiyo recall. But 4 years is not a long time. It's a long time, but still not a long time.
Okay.
Let us start having long memories. Sio mambo mtu anakuja wakati wa kura anatuambia barabara nitajenga, nitaenda nileta stima alafu ndio nijenga barabara. Hapana.
Okay.
Ulituambia utafanya hii au kufanya. Hata usikuje ku campaign just because they're going to vote for you. And we kick these people out. I would love to see people like Sandra, people like WARUI, people like Bitok getting in office so that we can have a change in leadership, a change in politics, and get better people in office to make our country better.
Thank you so much, my brother.
Thank you.
Asante sana. God bless. And you, Jesse. Jambo.
Hello, Gerald, wacha sasa nirudi sasa ya mwisho tu lakini ndio nitoke. Unajua kitu mimi nilikuwa nataka tu niongee hivi niseme. You know, of all, let us all tukue tu soba kama wa Kenya. Wale wananchi, wale wanasiasa wote wanaona wanajiweka kuwa presidential candidate. kati ya wao kweli kabisa, tukiangalia tuwapatie tu debate who is able to really to articulate issues that has substance of all the people. Tuangalie kwa mfano mimi nitawachukua kwa sababu wamejitoa. Mtu kama huyu wa Cobra Squad nilikuwa nimemuona Embu jana. Nilikuwa muliona vitu alikuwa akiongea. Kalonzo mwenyewe Ngilu alikuwa anasema vituko. Kalonzo mwenyewe Ngilu aliambia Kalonzo alimwambia na Kikamba. Kama kuna mtu ambaye hawezi kutetea maslahi ya Wakamba ni huyu Kalonzo. Sasa baba juzi nilisikia akiita Kalembe Kalulu. Sio mulisikia. Alafu akarudi akamuita tena Kalonzo. Unaona hapo kuna vile mambo imeenda, miaka imeenda pia. Tusisukumie mtu vitu ambaye kweli ni ngumu. Na sasa hata kama tukipatia msale vile tumesema tu, mpatie tu a debate issue. Other than ile anasukumwa kuambiwa yeye ni economist sijui nini. Aongee tu issues ambao ni politics. Unajua hao watu wa St. Mary na Serela ni ngumu sana kuarticulate kujua vitu ambayo mwananchi yako. Kwa sababu kama leo hii mimi nikikwambia watu wanalala njaa hapo Kenya, ni kweli? William Samoei Kipchirchir Arap Ruto amelala njaa, ametembea mguu kavu, anajua mtu akishikwa na tawaiwai ni kumaanisha nini, anajua mtu akilala njaa anasema nini. Lakini sasa watu ambao mtu akienda hajalala njaa, hajaenda na matatu, hajapata shida, utamueleza aje kweli? Sisi tutaanzia wapi wananchi wa kawaida?
Asante sana
tu William Tuku mapema saa 2 amalize. Na mimi nashukuru, awacha niongeleshe hawa. Huyo jamaa anaitwa nani mwenye mko
na Martin Warui.
Yes.
Martin Warui.
Yes.
Habari yako rafiki yangu?
Salama sana.
Nashukuru sana. Mungu akubariki. Wewe tutakupatia security kwa sababu wewe ni MVP. Na huyo dada kizungu Gerald, umesikia mama anaongea kizungu kwa hapo kweli.
She's sitting tongue of London.
I know, mimi nasikia naongea kizungu mpaka mimi nasema kweli hii tunirudie school fees ama nini? Kwa sababu sasa hii kuongea mimi naongea nikisema nini. Mungu tutapatia security kwa sababu hao ndio ma MVP ya hii chama ya UDA.
She is eating the mouth of England. Thank you.
Hiyo kizungu ni mzuri, hata Kiswahili pia nimesikia anajua.
Inaitwa mouth of London.
Hata Kiswahili anajua.
Asante.
Hatari. Hiyo hata nafikiri radio sijui alipotelea wapi hajawekwa kwa radio kwa sababu sauti yake na kizungu ni ya radio.
Ndiye amefika sasa hapa.
Tutamweka permanently. Hiyo kiti asitolewe hapo
nitakuwa nasikia. Hata ni mwamba super glue ashikie. Asante sana. Haya, sijui tuchukue simu mbili. Kuna mtu amepiga, hiyo ni simu ambayo I think I to take. Jambo, bunge la mwenye nchi. Habari asubuhi.
Jambo.
Ni
Aaron hapa.
Simu yako naona umepotea sana. Aroni?
Nasikia ulikuwa umenitaja hapo.
Nilisikia mtu alikuwa amepiga nikasema huyu ni Aaron ameingia. Mbona bado unalala?
Uko Martin na Sandra.
Martin na Sandra wako hapa ndani.
Wako sawa, hata siwezi ongezea kitu leo. Nataka kuwapongeza bwana. Those guys are speaking our mind. Ni kama wamesoma ground. Wamesoma ground vizuri sana. Those are the people you should be bringing bwana. Hata na hiyo wengine wanakuja wamechanganyikiwa.
Haya. Asante kwa maoni.
Nimesikia vile wanaongea vizuri. Na jana nilikupea homework bwana, hujaleta majibu ya Bomet.
Mambo ya Bomet nimeongelesha watu wenu. Nimeongelesha watu wenu, acha ningoje. Nimejaribu kuzungumzia governor akuje. Acha nimeongelesha senator pia. Senator alikuwa kuja wakati mwingine karibu miezi 2 iliyopita, hajafika. Kwa hivyo acha niongee tena nao by Monday nitawapa feedback.
Najua wewe ni sahihi, wewe ndio macho yetu sasa.
Mimi ndio baba yenu.
Wewe wenye umefungua soko. Utatumia data avenue kuwea wa views.
Nashukuru. Acha niongeleshe governor, niendeleshe tena kuongelesha senator, alafu basi wakifika hapa muweze kuuliza maswali yenu.
Na ulikuwa ulete Asla bwana, what happened?
Asla alisema acha achukue mahari kwanza. Waja mahari pia haitaki kelele. So Asla atakuja July, lakini naona ni kama Kalonzo anaweza kuja hii wiki inakuja. So mjitayarishe pia.
Leta Kalonzo pia tumuulize maswali.
Haya, hakuna shida. Hii wiki inakuja anaweza kuwa hapa.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Siku njema. Bunge la mwenye nchi, simu ya mwisho.
Hi, good morning, Bitok.
Good morning to you. So am I speaking to?
This is Governor P. Mushendo speaking.
Governor Ray.
Hey, how are you, my brother?
Salama sana. Ulisema ukuji unang'ang'ana na Kiamba. Chunga isizame. Ikizama na huku kuja kazi, ujue utaama.
Lakini wacha nikuambie. My executive director has represented me very well. Accurate, very precise and firm on what she believes in. And then the fun of the week is something else. Ati Uhuru amefanya kazi but amefanya ile kazi mbaya.
Some other wrong things.
that was a take home for me. I have to say today's show is on fire.
Thank you, my brother.
The articulation of issues are just on point, and I just wanted to congratulate the panelists today. Wamefanya kazi sambamba. Sasa mkimaliza Bitok, mnaweza kuja hapa Kiambu Road, naweza nunua lunch Kiambu Road ukikuja. Najua wewe ni mtu ya Kiambu Road.
Mungu ni mwema. Kumbe leo tumepata ka lunch.
Leo tumeangukia.
Out of nowhere.
Salimia anaitwa Muturi.
Anaitwa Warui, Martin Warui.
Warui, salimia Warui na Sandra hapo.
Asante.
Thanks.
Tafadhali na ukuje umeshika nini chai yangu ya saa 10 na mkono. You are my executive director. I just wanted to today's show is on fire. I've listened to it from home all the way to Kiambu. Keep the fire burning. Na tafadhali huyu Waroi atafutiwe nafasi yao ya kikuja bana, wakiwa na Sandra every now and then.
Kuja wanapiga. Unajua hii ni show ya wananchi, hapa ndio wananchi wanazungumzia.
Asante. I'm telling you, always be talk, keep up the good work.
Thank you, my brother, and God bless you.
Asante.
Haya, tumefunga bunge. Mungu ni mwema. Acha tuzungumze sasa, tusikie sasa maoni ya panelist tukiendelea kufunga kiosk. Okay. Any reactions on the calls? But even before we react, tuende Kiamba kidogo. Kiamba nini inaendelea pale?
Okay, Kiamba, so we are having the by-elections. As Kenyans are aware, the former MP Koinange passed on. And may his soul continue to find peace, though he did not give Kenyans peace. So he was among the people who are rumored to have poisoned some donations in Kikuyu. So it's just that as Africans we cannot disrespect the dead, but atujasahau. Okay. But anyway, so there's a race between UDA coalition candidate called John Njuguna wa Wanjiko. On the ground, he's popularly known as Kawajiko. I will explain that shortly. And then there is the Jubilee candidate, Kariri Njama. And I probably want to begin by sending my pole to Kariri Njama, because for sure he's going to lose. Na ataanguka pajichore kamtu. The best thing Kariri Njama can do to himself today to salvage his political career or any political ambitions for the future is to actually step down and say that he is supporting Wanjiko under pressure from the ground, na kwamba amesikiza watu. At least ndio watu wakiambao waseme, anyway, Kariri si mtu mbaya, ametusikiza na ameamua kusupport mtu wetu. Now, John Njuguna Wanjiko, he's under the UDA coalition, or the Hustler Nation coalition, and he's standing in the UDA party. Okay. We are calling it the Hustler Nation coalition because there is UDA and PEP led by Moses Kuria. And Moses Kuria is actually the lead in the campaign. Moses Kuria was called in to lend support because there was a strong belief that winning Juja was not easy. Okay. And I was in Juja, and I can tell you it was not easy. We saw drama. The state can be bad. Wow. Some of us went tulifungwa. We were put in jail. And we were watching as the Jubilee campaigners on the ground were being escorted by cops. But for us, unakutwa ukieka posters, unafungwa. So Juja was very hard, was very tough. You remember our candidate also had to go into hiding. They started a propaganda on his certificates. But I tell you, if we did not have Moses Kuria, no, let me not lie, we would have not won. The man is resilient, and then the man is brilliant. He knows how to unamkujia hivi, anapanga strategy ya kwenda hivi. So it was believed that or it was considered that if Moses Kuria was able to win Juja with a team, he has a team called the Reke Squad. You all know what Reke is.
Yeah.
Reke ni ile kikundi ukileta nyoko sana wanatolewa pale barracks. Reke inaingia. So the Reke Squad under Moses Kuria delivered Juja, and therefore it was considered that it would be important for Moses Kuria to come into Kiambaa and bring the Reke Squad to add additional support to the work that UDA was doing. And then also you remember there was a time that the PEP was to field a candidate, and there was a roundtable discussion. And this is why I hold on to Dr. William Samoei Ruto. The man is a negotiator. He's a diplomat. So he put all those wild member of parliament there who all wanted to be the ones and who all wanted their candidates to be there. And he managed to cool them down, and they came to a consensus. Let us be a coalition, okay? And let's support this young guy. He's ni mwananchi wa kawaida. He holds no political clout. And for the DP, he felt, how else am I going to convince the people of Kenya that I stand true to the word of hustler and that I believe in the kawaida Kenyan? If I'm going to, I cannot pick a young man like this who has zero political experience and say that I'm willing and ready to support him with what it takes and prop him up, as a political leader. John Njuguna has also his own capacities and capabilities and qualities as a leader. People have seen them on the ground when he's addressing wananchi on the ground. He's a very strong candidate. Now, the reason why he's called Kawa Jikori is because he is the son of a single mom. And that has resonated extremely well with the ground. Simply because, there is a belief, this is, the future is female. First of all, let us agree. The future is female. And so he stood up, and his mantra is that he has come a long way, having been brought up by a single mom. And he has seen that regime after regime, very few regimes focus on women, and especially the population that has come from single women, and the struggles that single women go through. And in Kiambaa, he wants to start a pilot program where he wants to not just concentrate, but give special attention to that particular segment of the society. And I think that's a very noble cause, because, whether we like it or not, today, single mothers are very many. Children are suffering. There should be special projects and special facilities and concessions for, not just single moms, even single dads are there. And by the way, they also go through their own hardships. So Kiambaa right now is on fire. People are not interested in Jubilee in the least bit. Mimi niko ground. By the way, I'm from Kirinyaga. Let nobody assume that I'm from Kiambaa. I am part of the Reke Squad, and I'm from Kirinyaga. Kabonge.
Lakini uko Kiambaa.
No, de Kiambaa. Groundy. And I can tell you, I'm speaking from what I've picked for the last 1 week that we have been there. People do not want Jubilee. In fact, ukienda kwanza story ya Jubilee, you will have a very hard time. And that's why Kariri Njama is having a very hard time. Then our candidate has proven himself to be very strong. He's an amazing individual. He speaks from the heart. Let me tell you, if you go to a forum where John Njuguna is talking to people, you will fall in love with him. He speaks from the heart. Okay. And then again, I love the fact that he's politically untainted. So he has this wild dream and hope for Kiambaa. And believe you me, that's what we need in Kenya today. And there's the same wild hope and dream that Dr. Ruto has for Kenya as a whole. Now, one of the other reasons that John Njuguna Wanjiko is also leading is because initially, even when we went to Juja, watu walikuwa wasema hatapiga kura. Sema ya nini upige kura na hii serikali itaiba kura. Guys were not interested. But, you know, when they recognized that Honorable Koimburi is in PEP, which is backed by Moses Kuria. Na unajua Moses Kuria anajulikana, huwezi mchezea. Guys were like, huyu atalinda kura. And he even went to the ground and he told them, mimi nitalinda kura.
Okay.
And so when we won, the Juja residents were very happy and they said, thank you, you kept your word. So when he landed in Kiambaa, there was a change because people were like, kura inalindwa.
Okay.
Vile linda ya Juja,
tutalinda pia Kiambaa.
We have him here.
Okay.
Atalinda ya Kiambaa. Okay. And so that has really changed the perception and has given people more the morale and the drive to go out and vote.
Okay.
You know, again, voter apathy is sometimes it messes things up.
Yeah.
So those are the three key issues why Kiambaa, I would recommend that, Kariri Njama should just do the noble thing. Say, look, this race is not for me, rather than getting humiliated. And he owns up. And let me tell you something, Juja and Kiambaa will also be the determining factor for who takes over the reign of Mount Kenya region. First of all, let us agree on one thing.
Yeah.
Mount Kenya today has a de facto kingpin who happens to be Dr. William Samoei Ruto.
Oh.
Yes. Leo Ruto akiongea Mount Kenya yeye ndio anasikika. It is not President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta as people say. Hot on his heels, and the person who is going to be without a doubt the new Mount Kenya kingpin is Honorable Moses Kuria. And let nobody think that I'm saying that because he's my party leader. This man is one of the few political leaders who came out and was bold enough to begin telling Uhuru, apana, apa sio sawa. Apana, why are you beating your deputy? You know, he was among the few who dared.
Okay.
Then in fact, without even saying too much, if I go to Kirinyaga, I go Gadhokoka haria, some place called Kiagwashi.
Yeah.
And I say, my people, tomorrow I'm bringing Moses Kuria here to come and talk to you. They will be screaming and shouting and saying, what time? I go to the same Kabonge, Kiagwashi market, and I tell them, my people, tomorrow I'm bringing, who can I mention? Just some other politician from Mount Kenya region, off the cuff. The chances are some of those women will ask me in the Soko, should know, who is that? I have to start explaining, that is the MP for Mahali Flani. Moses Kuria's name is known. Okay? And it's not known just because of being seen on TV. It's known because he has pushed serious agendas in this country. The other day he pushed the tea and coffee agenda. You remember, this is the guy who was on the Punguza Mzigo. Okay, until it was hijacked. This is the guy who supported DP during the Mbele Iko Sawa campaigns in 2017. Because 2017 NASA ingetubeba. Unye alikuwa melala. And Dr. Ruto was pushing this thing alone. Moses Kuria recognized it and decided to step in, came up with Mbele Iko Sawa, and helped to boost that win.
Okay.
So Moses Kuria is the next kingpin. And guess what? Once he wins, we win in Kiambaa. What other qualification does Mount Kenya need to know that you have a strong man like Moses Kuria who is able to articulate, not just to stand on podiums and make noise, because people think kingpin is about making noise. Moses Kuria articulates issues, he follows through, and he's a man of the people. I have worked with him briefly, but he's a man of the people. MK na wananchi, he's a man of the people. So Kiambaa, basically, we are going to win. And it's going to, of course, now catapult him, people like MK, to national level. It's also the Kiambaa win will also solidify Dr. William Ruto's stand and power in Mount Kenya region. All those who have been saying that he just has numbers on social media, which by the way, social media is not robots, it's Kenyans. They will know that it's not about social media. In fact, in Kiambaa, people, every time we land there, people are asking, amuna kitu imeandikwa UDA, naeza kuvaa, ama ninaeza kuweka kwa hii duka. Guys are allowing you to put posters on their shops, the walls of their shops. They're allowing you to put UDA posters at their gates. You know, it's a wave. And Kiambaa is going to be another humiliating hit for President Uhuru. It is going to go to, a hustler, Kawajiko. And it will just have to be the wake-up call, the hard hit on the head. And if he does not see this one and does not recognize this one, then I don't know what else Kenyans can do to make him realize that we really need him to finish up and go. In fact, if I can echo my boss, since he has already gone to opposition, aende tu aachie Dr. Ruto atumalizie hii mwaka, alafu 2022 we can even save on elections. We just endorse the guy and move on.
Haya, James Mwanda akona ujumbe yako hapa, amesema ambia Sandra reke squad ionekane Kasharage, they are giving all their time to Gashie, Denderu and Ruaka. So chukua note, peleka pale kwa reke ya kwamba itaweza kufikia watu wenyewe. And I've also invited the aspirants of Kiambaa for a show. So talk to Kawajiko.
Okay.
Nilimpigia pia akashika akasema atanipigia. So sijapokea simu, so mwambie natengeneza show. We want to do a show for the people of Kiambaa. Okay. Let them know what they're negotiating for. Now, I want you to analyze this for us, Martin.
Sure.
Jubilee is here. It looks like, first of all, there's some serious infights. I've seen Waiguru commenting on what the majority leader said. And also there are people who are saying within Jubilee, there are people who are saying, yes, we are going to Kiambaa, but some people should not come. I've said, apana tusione Muradhi, usikuja, sijui tusione Nyoro, sijui tusione nani. I mean, what's your analysis of all political happenings, especially in the by-elections? And Kiambaa, for that instance.
I can only speak as an observer from this.
That's what I need from you. Yeah. I need you to speak like an observer.
Number one, in local parlance, people say, Jubilee wamechoma picha. That's why they are finding it difficult to go to the ground and, speak to the voters. I saw those sentiments being expressed by, I think they were calling themselves, local Jubilee leaders in Kiambaa, and they said, they are capable of delivering the seat for Jubilee on condition that, those other jokers or pretenders, should keep off. Because you see, picking from what Sandra has said, and I also come from Kirinyaga, Sandra, I come from Gishogo, but, Sandra has talked about, taken quite some time to talk about Moses Kuria. What happened and what is happening in Kiambaa today, Gerard, is the fact that in Mount Kenya, there are political leaders who have, lost their credibility in the eyes of the voters and the people of that backyard because of their statements, because of their silence when they should have spoken. So, and every time they speak, they leave voters with a bad taste. The good examples are, Kemunya, for instance, arrogance, indifference, being detached from the ground. The same thing with people like Murathe and Ngonjiru Wambogo. If those people go to Kiambaa, or if they will be going to Kiambaa, then Kawanjiko does not even need to campaign very hard. Their utterances are enough to deliver that seat to Njuguna, Kawanjiko. It is Moses Kuria, I agree with Sandra, who started this conversation in Mount Kenya. And it's not going to go away. Okay. You can see the president has tried all tricks in his bag, up his sleeves. But this conversation is not going to go away. And I think it was in 2019, it was either on 31st of December of 2019, when we were, getting into 2020 when Moses Kuria said, wait a minute, we have this president, but the people of Mount Kenya have continued to suffer under his leadership. They have been economically deprived. Their economic activities no longer bring value to them. In simple terms, we're saying that the president has not delivered.
Okay.
And there were, of course, leaders who came out to say, no, Moses Kuria is lying. You know, he is lying. The things that he is speaking to are not the truth on the ground. The president has delivered. The mountain is okay.
Exactly.
Everything is okay here. And people said, but our milk prices, our coffee prices, our businesses in Nairobi, these things are not so well. So why are you saying things are okay while on the ground things are not okay? And the president was not able to make interventions in good time. Had President Uhuru made interventions in good time, he would have salvaged the situation, perhaps, because we don't know. So the infighting that you see in Jubilee, it's like the Tower of Babel, you know. They don't know what they can say or do to assuage the feelings of voters on the ground. And this is one of the things that is now causing serious loss of, you know, trust and credibility and value in Jubilee Party. And Jubilee Party is going to pay for that in Kiambaa. They paid for it in London. They paid for it in Rurie. They paid for it in Kiambaa. And they are going to pay for it in Kiambaa. The other thing is the mode of campaign, you know. If you, like you correctly said or observed, there is a lot of infighting in Jubilee. Do you know why? Because in Jubilee, nobody listens to one another. They don't talk like people should talk. You know, my grandmother used to say, a small house meets to discuss and to discuss their issues when darkness sets in. This party has been unable, Gerard, to call people to a table and speak to issues that are of concern to the voters. They are too proud, they are too indifferent, they are too detached to come on a table and speak and say, if it's, for instance, in Kiambaa, what is going to be our campaign strategy? What are the issues that make sense to the people of Kiambu? They do not know the issues that affect the people of Kiambaa. And that's why they resolve this. Everybody wants to be a boss in Jubilee. The party structures are dead. That's why you see people like Ngojiru Wambogo can come and bypass all party structures and, you know, say, I want to lead the campaign. And the majority leader, Kemunya, is there saying, but I am the majority leader. The other thing is the issue of money. I think, you know, people are just trying to, you know, fight for the control of campaign resources. Because I'm telling you, Jubilee is going to deploy a lot of resources in this race. So people are eyeing, you know, campaign resources and money. They want to control the purse, you know. So I think that is the infighting. But lastly, it is the failure of leadership on the part of President Uhuru.
Yeah,
you
we
know,
come down to that.
We come down to that because you see, for instance, in London Ward, you know, Pep had a candidate there and UDA had a candidate there. They campaigned very well. In the end, the UDA candidate won. The people did not make a big fuss out of it. In Kiambaa, in Juja, Pep, UDA did not field a candidate. Pep fielded a candidate, and the Hustler movement, you know, stood behind Koimburi, and they campaigned for him, and they delivered the seat. In Kiambaa, Pep had a candidate. UDA also had a candidate. And, you know, because of those two parties having candidates and they belong to or they subscribe to the Hustler Nation ideology, the people in Jubilee or the deep state wanted to take advantage of those two candidates to
divide the votes.
To divide the votes and also create a narrative to show that the Hustler Nation is divided. But these guys became strategic. They took the longer view of saying, you know, our focus is on 2022, but before we go to 2022, we have a few assignments that we have to do and we have to deliver them. So we say, what is the best interest of everyone? What is the overarching, you know, interest for us? It's the delivery of this seat. Do we think that UDA has a better chance of delivering this seat? Perhaps yes. So let us also bring together our energies, our brains together and decide and focus on how we are going to deliver this seat. So they were able to to put the house in order in good time. They made the right interventions at the good time. And like Sandra has said, it took the intervention of the deputy president, but also because leaders in the Hustler Nation are leaders who are not doing this thing perhaps for their own selfish ends. They were able to listen to the deputy president and they said, you know, we pull out our candidate as Pep and we are going to stand behind this, and not just pulling out their candidate. You can see Sandra, the way she speaks passionately about the candidate, you know. You can see they have no bad blood. There will always be issues in a house, you know. But it is, what is important is how you address those issues and how timely you address those issues, so that you can focus your energies on the bigger picture. And you see, I think the kind of, you know, arrangements, the kind of planning, the kind of cooperation that is there, it's unity of purpose is going to help the UDA candidate a lot. So my money is on Njuguna Kawanjiko. I think he is going to take this thing. And, you know, lastly, to speak about what Sandra has said, you know, in Mount Kenya, Gerard, you do not impose a kingpin on people. They emerge naturally. Yes. And they earn the legitimacy of people through their actions, through what they say, through their track record. If you do not have a track record on the ground, you cannot imagine that you are going to become the kingpin. Not of Mount Kenya only, but kingpins nationally, everywhere. So you cannot just come from the woods and you want to become the kingpin. And I can tell you, what Moses Kuria is very strategic and very smart. I remember when I was in the university, that time Moses Kuria had, you know, these run-ins with the, you know, the governments, you know, because sometimes he speaks his mind, and sometimes when he speaks his mind, it unsettles a lot of people. I told one of my colleagues, she's a lawyer in the US, and I told, you know, even Kikus then would find it difficult to associate with Moses Kuria. But I made an observation and tell, you know, I find Moses very brilliant, you know. But, you know, in our politics, sometimes our politics does not bring out the best in people because of the environment that is there. So you find sometimes, you know, speaking, people, you know, saying things that perhaps they should have been measured in speaking. But that does not take away the fact that these are brilliant people. They are very smart. Moses Kuria saw an opportunity. He knew what needs to be done if anybody is going to project themselves or even declare themselves as the kingpin of Mount Kenya. You do not have to tell people you are the kingpin. If you go to the ground, people will tell you, Moses Kuria says, you know, he is referred to as the Jamba ya Ruriri, meaning he is the Jamba means of he is the what is it? Like the hero of the community. That is how people address
what is
him.
Ruriri?
The community.
Community.
Is the hero of the community. Why? Because the community thinks that he has done things or he has pursued things that in the best interest of this community, and they see him as a leader. The people who had perhaps stood a chance of becoming the kingpins of the community alongside Moses Kuria were people like William Kafogo, Martha Karua, Peter Kenneth. But you see, becoming a kingpin, Gerard, is also, it's a risk you take. It's a risk you take. A strategic risk, a calculated risk. They are not going to be without consequences. The people who, we could have settled this debate long time ago if people like Peter Kenneth and William Kafogo and Martha Karua had come out and, you know, speak boldly to issues that were affecting the region. But what did many of them choose? They chose silence and to rally behind the president, even when they knew too well that on the ground things were different. But Moses Kuria took the unpopular path and he said, I am going to speak to these issues. Whatever happens, I am ready to pay the price. It is not surprising, therefore, that PEP is one of the parties that is going to have a considerable number of candidates, not only running on that party ticket, but also winning elective seats in the backyard of Mount Kenya. And that is going to propel Moses Kuria to the helm of kingship. The only thing that could work against Moses Kuria, but I don't think that is a factor today, is now when this issue of division of West-East. But I think that debate is going to be settled with time. Naturally, it's going to be settled. I don't think it is. This is just democracy. People are just having a conversation. At the appropriate time, I think people are going to cross ranks and they are going to say, okay, this is how we proceed. But this kingship, this one, hakuna mambo ya kukua coronated, sijui appointed, sijui pinpointed, sijui supported. You earn it.
Okay, you work for it. Haya, tunafunga kiosk. Masaa imeenda.
Masaa imeenda.
Sema tu kwaheri.
Well, kwaheri yangu, before I say kwaheri, I want to make a small comment on the East and West thing. For me, I truly believe the East and West thing is a choreographed drama. I believe it is the state that is sponsoring some of these people who are coming up to pretend to be coronated and want to be recognized as kingpins. And the reason why the state is doing that is for two reasons. One, they think that by creating this East and West split, they'll be able to create a split in votes against Dr. William Samoei Ruto. Okay. Because you see, there are those, for example, anybody who might be supporting Muturi as the coronated king, and then they get angry because, we have not heard Dr. Samoei Ruto, sanctioning it or approving it or agreeing with it. We're not seeing Dr. Ruto pulling Muturi close. We're not seeing Dr. Ruto involving Muturi in, his national agendas. So they're assuming that the people who are supporting Speaker Muturi will feel resentful of the DP and cause a split. Then there are those, of course, now who are assuming that those people who are following Akina Wairia, although I have no idea who would be who would be a supporter to Wairia. This is just a scheme to try and split the Mount Kenya vote, and also it's also against Dr. Ruto, and it is also an attempt to try and water down the gains of Honorable Moses Kuria. Okay. Because the more people you have claiming to be kingpins, and then you split it between East and West, so you have the Meru and Embus wanting their own, who is Muturi, and then the Kikuyus deciding we want our own, who happens to be Moses Kuria. But like Martin has said, Moses Kuria has not become the lead or the upcoming Mount Kenya star because he moves around Kenya cracking jokes and being on political podiums. No, it's because he is one of the few Mount Kenya leaders who have stood up, spoken against issues that affect Wanjiko. Okay. He's one of the few Mount Kenya leaders who stood up in the very beginning and told President Uhuru, hang on, we came out in numbers. Okay. We voted for you and we have supported you despite all the things that you have, the negative choices and decisions you have made. What's in it for us? What have we gained? He's the one guy who dared to ask the president, you're taking all the goodies to, Western, which is okay. Western is also Kenya. But the bottom line is this. What about us as Mount Kenya? We supported you. When you were when you were headed to the ICC, we supported you. During the 2017 elections, we supported you. Si utupatie kakiwanda kamoja kamaziwa tuuze bei mzuri. He's the one person who dared to say our milk prices are not favorable, but they are favorable to, for example, Brookside. No other Kikuyu leader wanted to speak because they were either fearing the president himself or fearing his family or fearing repercussions of one way or another. But Moses Kuria decided, look, my people are suffering. This region is suffering. I'm from this region. It makes me a useless person to just sit back and watch these things happening. And he did not just defend Katondo South. He was defending the whole of Mount Kenya region. Okay, so I think the East and West story is just a strategy by deep state, so to speak, to try and split Dr. Ruto's influence in Mount Kenya region and also the rising star of Moses Kuria. Okay. But in closing, for me, I usually say on my wall that I am an advocate for good governance. Okay. And as Kenyans, we should always be ready to speak out. When something is happening that is not to the convenience and to the benefit of you as a Kenyan, you need to speak. We have the fuel prices that are being hiked arbitrarily every day. That Kenyans should be able to rise up and speak. We have so many forums nowadays of speaking. We have your social media platforms. We can picket. And probably at this time, I want to call on people like Boniface Mwangi. They have really abandoned us as Kenyans. One thing I say, I do not advocate for anarchy, but I cannot help but clap for the guy who burnt down the Atwoli sign at Dick Road. I mean, come on. We cannot have an Atwoli road when we do not have a road for other heroes in this country. And for someone like Atwoli, who has actually done nothing for workers, he should be ashamed, and this nation should stand up and tell him to his face, you should be ashamed together with the president and the NMS for trying to put up a sign like that. We have more serious issues in this country to tackle, and Kenyans should be brave, stand up, speak on your social media platforms, and call out this government to do the right thing. Okay. Like one of the callers said, Modoni, politics is your life. Okay. Look at the way they politicize this COVID story to the point where the COVID vaccination became a Ruto story. It's just pathetic. Today, the minister or the CS of health stands up to tell us that we might be getting water injections as COVID vaccinations. Yet he's the one, together with the state, who politicize this vaccination story. People who have qualified and have the capacity and capability to have imported the COVID vaccine under the direct or oversight of the government, because the government should have a process and a system in which they're able to verify what you're bringing in. Today we'd have sufficient vaccines, but because there's one vaccine brand that was used by the DP, then it was decided, the DP's people are importing vaccines, so let's close that door and it just be only one particular line or pipeline that is bringing in vaccines. And in the process of that shortage, hospitals have now been injecting Kenyans with water. So we need to call out the government to do the right thing. You need to speak out, because politics is about your life. Okay.
Asante sana, Sandra. Now, Warui, someone is asking here, GB Talk, kindly ask Martin if he's available on these social media platforms so you can follow his flow of wisdom from that. Unajitaja Facebook.
Unfortunately, I exited both Facebook and Twitter last year.
So uko wapi?
I'm just on Instagram. I don't know whether I'll be making a comeback.
Utakuwa unampata hapa.
Yeah. Last thing, maybe my closing remarks. Yeah. I think I want to end or to emphasize the words of President Obama, who said that, politics is too serious a business to just be left to the political class only. Our constitution is heavy on public participation. And one of the ways to participate is to participate in elections, We have a serious job of fixing this country moving forward. And I think that journey starts with, electing leaders. We have been talking about making better choices at the ballot. Kenyans have a reason to feel the way they feel today. The despondency that is there, but they cannot lose hope. We still have a chance to, fix this country through our small contributions. Kenyans should continue working hard, on issues of bread and butter. I think things are going to shape up at some point, but the Jubilee government has been a huge disappointment. Everything that could have gone wrong with this government has gone wrong, and the buck stops at the president. That is where the buck stops. He cannot apportion blame. He cannot run away from it. This is his problem. It is his baby. He's the one to breastfeed this baby. It is his baby. So otherwise, I want to just implore on Kenyans where there are by-elections to conduct themselves peacefully, to sell their ideas, to go and make their choices.
Life will move on. There'll be life after the elections.
We cannot, keep on, those things are in the past. We have to be decent people and progressive. Let them go and vote. But thank you for the opportunity.
I appreciate it for coming. I appreciate the support.
I enjoyed the show because of Sandra and the host and the callers. Thank you. I hope to have another opportunity.
Karibu tena. Asante sana. Nashukuru sana. Thank you so much for coming. Kuna mtu amesema let's have Moses Kuria Road. Ujimefika kwenye county. Wacha tuangalie gazeti haraka tukienda DP. The Standard inasema and now it's Chinese onions on our tables. Umeanza kula kitungo ya Wachina. Leadership nasema leadership watia. Leadership vacuum at KPA, kuna shida pale KPA wameweza kukosa kwa point CEO ama sio wanaitwa MD. Treasury goes for Eurobond. Ingine imeongezewa. Eurobond inakuja. Fourth Eurobond, yeah. A lot is good. Haya, top stars lineup for Tokyo, mambo ya mchezo. We'll open the servers in 2022, Paul huyo ni Chebukati amesema IBC chair says commission will acquire multiple servers to ensure poll is free and verifiable. Okay. Kutakuwa na server nyingine Kawangware, ingine iko France ama Ujerumani. DP Ruto pain over Uhuru NASA plan and upset DP falls his boss for abandoning 8 million Kenyans who voted for Ruto dream to join hands with NASA opponents, saying Uhuru intentionally destroyed Jubilee. Revealed schools with top Form 1 applications, mistakes in high school selection by 2020 KCB can derail students' quest to join their institutions of choice. That is a standard. I'll just look at the headlines. The headlines tutaangalia. People Daily. The most popular schools in Form 1 selection, a day of the African child. Rattled Ruto fights Uhuru over NASA. Direct attack. The Deputy President turns the heat on his boss over his comments that he was ready to support a candidate from the opposition if the leaders agree to front one flag bearer in 2022 polls. MCAs on their own in degrees demand. Sema mtajipanga na madigre. Governors call for Nyanza lockdown. Kisumu kimeumana baada ya madaraka. It's not madaraka in Kisumu. Things are tough. Kimeumana pale COVID imepanda. Collapse of the tyranny of numbers. Tower of Babel, the big vote block that Mount Kenya has wielded in the past elections is likely to splinter, going by divisions rocking the region. Initially divided along Kieleweka and Tanga factions, to President Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto, a further rift has emerged, pitting camps against east and west of the mountain, even as the 2022 succession contest holds up. That's on the story on page 4 to 5. Ruto blames Uhuru for Jubilee's fall. Panasema Deputy President William Ruto yesterday accused President Kenyatta of orchestrating the fall of the ruling Jubilee party as part of a plan to back the position in 2022. Reacting to reports that Mr. Kenyatta pledged to support a national super alliance NASA leader in the next year's polls, DP Ruto said he is ready to go it alone under the United Democratic Alliance UDA. The DP further accused the president of the neglecting Jubilee supporters who voted for him to the last man. So what happens to the Thorakus, the Kumera contingent, the 8 millions of us, no youth, no woman, no man who woke up early and voted 3 times for the Uhuru Ruto ticket, merit support. Sawa tu, tutajipanga na support ya Mungu. William Ruto. Tribute, the Kirubi I knew. When you meet Christopher John Kirubi, there was no mistaking the fact that he was a great man. He looked like one, talked like one, was treated like one, and proclaimed he was one. Right, J. Moria, the Centum CEO. Mada, Julie Watt's father still hoping to get justice 3 years later with the death of President Ellen Moi and his son Jonathan Toroitich, and cover-ups in Kenya and Britain. Mr. Ward hopes that the truth about his daughter's death will finally be known. Enga as Thousand Smith for one school choice. All right, that is it for the newspapers. For you, it's been a pleasure having you on the tackle. The tackle ends now until tomorrow on Diaspora Edition. We have a conversation. This is the drug abuse month or what? Mwezi. Naitaje mambo ya madawa. Drug users month or drug abuse month. How do I frame that? Anyway. Anything to do with drug abuse. We are talking about it tomorrow and telling you what's happening. The laws are coming up. By the way, the government is proposing very punitive laws on those people who are found with even bangi. You could end up with several years in jail. And I think is it more detrimental?
No. Yeah, exactly.
It's more detrimental.
I sent my member of parliament and I told him to look at one of the laws that was passed in the US. Mm-hmm. It doesn't always work. At the end of the day, that is going to be a very retrogressive piece of legislation. It needs to be looked at very well so that we punish or we curb that problem, but also not condemn a whole generation. Or because at the end of the day, those laws only net the small people.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the argument is from the guys who are coming in tomorrow. They are saying if we make the laws more punitive, it means we increase the price of drugs. So it means the drug peddlers get more money, and those the police get us for more bribes. Until tomorrow, see you. This has been the tackle, and the tackle ends now. Thanks for coming in, ladies and gentlemen.
Asante sana for having us.